The clock on the wall says it's midnight, but my body says it's the end of the world. This is hour 18. 18 straight hours on my feet at the wharf line commissary, and the steam from the dish pit still hangs in the air like a hot, wet blanket. The sound of knives hits the cutting boards in a frantic, desperate rhythm. It's not the sound of cooking, it's the sound of survival. The walls are corrugated tin, and every chop, every sizzle, every clang of a steel bowl echoes, bouncing around my skull until I can't think. I'm Tess Rivera, I'm 23. My title is Dry Goods Intake, but in a ghost kitchen hub like this, it really means I'm the backup line cook, the stock girl, and the one person who actually checks the safety logs. My eyes feel like they're full of sand, the skin underneath them pulled tight and bruised dark. But my hands, they're precise. You have to be precise. I punch the code into the walk-in freezer. The air conditioning is busted again, and the kitchen is hovering at a humid 90 degrees. The blast of cold air from the freezer feels good, but the thermometer readout makes my stomach clench. 39 degrees. I checked the log hanging on the clipboard an hour ago. Someone I recognized the lazy scrawl signed off that it was 33. They lied. 39 is the edge. 40 is the danger zone. 40 is how you poison a whole neighborhood. I grab the manual thermometer, plunge it into a test bag of shrimp, and wait. 39.8, almost there. My fingers, stiff and calloused, fiddle with the thermostat dial until I hear the compressors kick into overdrive. I log the real temperature. Tess Rivera, 12:04 a.m. Rivera, stop playing with the goddamn temperature and get over here. Bax Klein, the night manager. His chef's whites are stained with old tomato sauce, and his breath smells like the stale cigars he smokes in his car. He slaps a clipboard down on the steel prep table, right next to a tray of raw chicken. Sign it. It's the timesheet. My timesheet. It says I clocked in at 6 in the morning and clocked out at 6 in the evening. Bax, I'm still here, I say, my voice flat. It's past midnight. That's 18 hours. This says 12. He leans in, close enough that I can smell the sweat. We had a slow dinner rush. The numbers don't justify the overtime. Don't complicate the process. Tess, you sign for your 12. You get your check. You make it difficult. He taps the pen against the paper. Things get difficult. My jaw tightens. I need the money. I need every dime. But I hate him. I hate this. Fine, but I'm not signing until I dump the chicken. His eyes, small and piggy, narrow. What chicken? This chicken, I say, pointing to the tray he just put down. I pick up the date gun sticker stuck to the plastic wrap. The ink is smeared, but I can read it. This expired yesterday. We can't send this out. Bax lets out a sound that's halfway between a laugh and a choke. We've got an internal audit tomorrow morning. They don't want to see waste. They want to see efficiency. That MEANS. You cook it. The new guy on the fry station won't know the difference. The Cajun blackened sauce covers everything. I won't redate it. Bax. And I won't serve it. You won't? He looks at me like I've just grown a second head. Then you'll be cleaning the grease traps, by hand. Now cook the goddamn chicken. He stalks off toward his cramped office, leaving the timesheet on the table. I stand there, shaking, my blood hot. I look up, past the prep line, toward the service hallway where the delivery drivers pick up. There's a man standing there, just standing. He's not a driver. Drivers are frantic, yelling for their orders, phones in their faces. This man is standing half in shadow by the vending machines, wearing a dark, plain baseball cap pulled low. He's just watching the kitchen. His gaze sweeps across the line, slow, deliberate. He sees me looking at him. He doesn't look away. His fingers, long and clean, are resting on the stainless steel facing of the machine, tapping a slow, silent rhythm. Tap, 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 tap. The loud, obnoxious buzz of the stockroom delivery bell cuts through the kitchen noise. Bax is out of his office in a second, his whole body tense. He pats his pocket. I know what's in there. He keeps a bundle of thick nylon zip ties. He calls them temporary restraints, in case he catches an employee trying to sneak out with food. We all know they're just another way to keep us scared. He points at me. His face is red. You Stop staring into space. Station 6 is out of flour, and they need the case of number 10 cans of tomatoes. Get the utility cart, now. He's punishing me for the chicken. He knows the cart has a bad wheel. The left front one sticks. I go to the dry storage bay. The cart is already overloaded with bags of rice. He wants me to add more. I wrestle a 20-pound bag of flour onto the top shelf. Then another, and another, that's 60 pounds. Then I find the case of tomatoes. I try to lift it. It's at least 50 pounds on its own. I can't get it onto the cart. I have to push the cart over to it and tip the case on, rocking the whole unstable tower. I put my shoulder into it. The cart groans. I push. It moves a few feet, and then the bad wheel catches in a grout line in the floor tile. The whole cart jerks violently to the left. I try to correct it, to brace it, but it's too heavy. The whole thing tips. I jump back. Throwing my hands out, I save myself from being crushed, but my right hand slams against the metal shelving as I fall. A sharp, searing pain. I look down. The thick callus on my palm, built from months of lifting hot pans and hauling crates, has torn wide open. Blood, bright and shocking, wells up from the cut. It's already dripping onto the concrete floor. Damn it, I whisper, leaning against the wall, trying to catch my breath. The metallic taste of my own blood is in my mouth. I press my torn hand against my apron, trying to make it stop. I'm leaning right against the compliance wall, the wall of certificates, health department, fire safety, occupancy limits, and the big one, the Urban Commerce Bureau Gold Seal certificate. I've stared at this thing for months, but now something looks wrong. My hand is throbbing, but I lean closer. The gold seal. It's not embossed. It's flat. The blue ink of the border, it's not the right shade of navy. It's too light. And the signature, the text is misaligned, just by a millimeter or two. It's a print, a color copy. It's a fake. The entire certificate is a fake. Bax isn't just cutting hours and serving expired food. He's running an illegal kitchen. Find something interesting. Rivera. Bax's voice is right behind me. I jump. He saw me looking. He knows. Bax, this poster, it's... He grabs my arm. My good arm, his fingers dig in like claws. You worry about the things I tell you to worry about, the chicken, the timesheet, not the goddamn paperwork. He yanks me, hard. He pulls me past the fry station, where the new guy is already breading the gray-looking chicken. He drags me into the dish pit. The air is a thick, choking cloud of steam and bleach. The giant dishwasher is roaring. He shoves me into the far corner, right against the wall-mounted, high-pressure spray nozzle. He turns the handle. The water explodes out in a solid, screaming jet. It hits the steel wall next to my head, splattering, drenching me in greasy, scalding water in an instant. The noise is a deafening roar, a high-pitched shriek that drowns out the entire kitchen. He leans in, his face inches from mine, his mouth next to my ear. He has to yell to be heard over the spray. You are going to forget the chicken. You are going to forget that poster. And you are going to sign that timesheet. Are we clear? I'm trapped. The hot water is running down my neck. The steam is in my lungs. I try to twist away, and he shoves me back, his body pinning me against the tile. Are we clear? Clang! The sound of the heavy steel fire door slamming open cuts through everything. It echoes louder than the knives, louder than the spray nozzle. Bax freezes. He doesn't let go, but his head whips around. The man from the hallway is standing in the doorway. He's taller than I thought. Much taller. He takes off the baseball cap, and I see dark hair, cut short. He's wearing a heavy, waxed canvas coat, beaded with rain. It's not raining. He looks at Bax. He looks at Bax's hand on my arm. He looks at me, soaked and cornered. His voice is quiet, not loud like Bax's. It's low and deep, and it cuts through the roar of the water like a razor. Get your hands off her! The kitchen behind him goes silent. The clanging stops. The shouting stops. Someone even cuts the power to the cheap radio that's always playing. The only sounds left are the hissing of the flat-top grill and the screaming shriek of the water Bax still has cranked to full. The air is suddenly thick with the smell of burnt grease and hot, sharp metal. Bax, to his credit, tries to bluff. This is a private kitchen. Buddy, employee matter, get lost. He even tightens his grip on my arm. The man, Dario Castillo, doesn't even look at him. His eyes are on me. Just for a second, a quick, assessing glance. Then, he looks past me. He walks toward us. He doesn't rush. He just walks. He stops right in front of the compliance wall, next to the dish pit. He looks at the fake certificate. Bax finally lets go of my arm. Hey, that's official. You can't touch that. Dario reaches up. He grips the corner of the cheap laminated paper, and he pulls. The sound of the adhesive ripping off the drywall is loud in the sudden silence. He peels the whole thing off the wall. He doesn't crumple it, he folds it. Once. Very precisely. Then he drops it into the deep, industrial sink. The high-pressure spray is still on. The scalding water hits the fake certificate, and the cheap blue ink instantly bleeds, turning the water a murky gray. Only then does he turn his eyes to Bax. His eyes are not angry. They are not hot. They are cold. They are dark and calm and absolutely empty. And that's 1,000 times more terrifying. My heart is hammering so hard I feel it in my throat. This wasn't an accident. This man wasn't a delivery driver. He wasn't just watching. He was waiting. He didn't just stumble in here. He didn't save me. This is something else. This is a change of management. This is him marking his territory. Dario steps toward Bax. Bax, who outweighs him by 50 pounds, actually takes a step back, bumping into the dish rack. Dario speaks. His voice is a quiet rumble, so low I can barely hear him over the hissing water, but every word lands like a stone. You're burning money, he says. You're burning Castillo Syndicate money by touching my people. Castillo Syndicate. The name hits me like a punch to the gut. I've heard the name. Everyone in Port Laurels has whispers on the docks, stories you don't repeat. They're not just stories. My people. The words hang in the steam. My people. The possessive pronoun. It shifts the entire axis of the room. It's not just about bad chicken or fake posters anymore. I don't know if I was just rescued or if I was just claimed. The water screams, the grease burns, and I just stand there, my hand bleeding, watching the orbit of my entire world tilt. The key in my apartment lock sticks. It always sticks. I have to jiggle it left, then right, then pull back just a fraction of an inch before the tumblers finally click. The sound is loud in the 2 a.m. silence. I push the door open and I'm home. Home is an attic. 4 flights of stairs, no elevator, and plaster that smells like dust and damp. The air is cold. My radiator, a big cast iron beast in the corner, is pinging and ticking, putting up a pathetic fight against the Port Laurels night. But it's losing. My little pot of mint on the windowsill looks pale, its leaves drooping. I should have watered it. I walk straight to the bathroom. I don't turn on the main light, just the small one over the sink. The face that stares back at me from the cracked mirror is a stranger's. Her eyes are hollow, bruised underneath with a purple-black exhaustion. Her hair is plastered to her head, still damp from Bax's high-pressure nozzle baptism. I turn on the tap and run my right hand under the cold water, hissing as it hits the raw skin. I sit on the edge of the old clawfoot tub, the plastic first aid kit open on my knees. My hand is shaking. It's not from the cold. It's not from the pain, though the gash on my palm throbs in time with my pulse. It's the adrenaline crash, the massive, system-wide come-down from the past 18 hours. I peel back the cheap brown paper towel I'd taped around my hand in the wharf line locker room. It's soaked through. The cut is deeper than I thought, a jagged red mouth where the callus tore open. I pour a capful of antiseptic onto a cotton ball. The sharp, clean smell cuts through the phantom stench of burnt grease and hot metal that followed me home. My dad would have known what to do with this. He probably would have stitched it himself, right at the kitchen table. He was a dock worker, right down at these same Port Laurels piers, back when they actually moved cargo instead of kale salads. His hands were like old leather, scarred from steel cable and ice. My mom was a seamstress, worked piecework for the downtown garment district, her fingers flying over fabric until her knuckles swelled. They both knew what real work was. They knew precision. My mom always said, "You measure twice. Tess, you cut once." My dad lived by the shipping manifests. If the log doesn't match the container, he'd say, the whole shipment is junk. They both lost their jobs when the new economy rolled in. The piers were automated, then sold, then gutted. Wharfline Commissary was built right on the bones of my dad's old Union Hall. The garment district was outsourced. That's why I keep the notebooks. I have 3 of them. Small, black, spiral-bound, tucked under my mattress, every shift, every temperature check I make, every time I see someone leave the dairy pallet out for 20 minutes, every time Bax tells us to stretch the sanitizer solution with extra water, I log it. Not because I'm a hero, not because I'm planning on being a whistleblower. I'm not that brave, and I'm not that stupid. I do it for self-defense. When someone eventually gets salmonella from that gray chicken, when the health inspector finally shows up and sees the real logbook, not the fake one, my little notebook is the only thing that proves I wasn't the one who poisoned them. It's proof that I wasn't the one making it bua. I wasn't the one doing sloppy work. I wrap fresh, white gauze around my palm, pulling it snug. My ex-boyfriend, Mark, used to laugh at my notebooks. He called it my obsession. He thought my precision was cute, right up until he walked out. He didn't just walk out. He walked out on the 2-year, top-of-the-line phone plan he'd opened in my name. I was stuck with a $540 bill I couldn't pay. That's when I really learned to count, not just logging temperatures, but counting pennies. I learned that a $1.99 box of generic pasta can last for 3 dinners. I learned that you can wear socks for 2 days if you turn them inside out. I learned that want and need are 2 completely different languages. At the commissary, I know what they call me when I'm not in the room. Clock girl. Hey, hide the line. Here comes clock girl. Don't let her see your timer. Man, she'll write you up. They call me that because I'm the only one who actually sets the timers on the convection ovens. The other line cooks just feel it. You feel a 30-pound hotel pan of roasted pork. No, you time it, you guess. You're off by 10 minutes. You serve raw pork. You poison a family. They think I'm a pain. I just think I'm right. But the shaking won't stop. I stand up, the gauze in my hand, and walk to the single window. I look down at the wet, empty street 4 floors below. My breath fogs the glass. It's his voice, his words. They're stuck in my head, playing on a loop, bouncing around my skull just like the sound of the knives off the tin walls. By touching my people. He didn't say this employee. He didn't say her. He said my people. A claim, an inventory, like I was a side of beef he'd just signed for. Dario Castillo. The name itself felt heavy, like it was made of rebar. He didn't yell like Bax. He didn't posture. He just stood there, in his rain-damp coat. And the entire kitchen, all the steam and the noise and the panic, just bent around him. He tore that fake certificate off the wall like he was pulling a weed. Now that phrase is here, in my attic. It's messing with my breathing. Usually, I can control my breathing. Inhale for 4. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. It's the one thing that gets me through the 18-hour shifts. But it's not working. My chest feels tight, constricted, like I'm still back in that dish pit with the scalding water hitting the wall. I can't sleep. The adrenaline is still singing in my veins, a high, thin wire of awake. I open my laptop. The screen has a spider web crack in the corner. But it works. I pull up the local Port Laurel's newsfeed, scrolling past the usual city budget fights. Then I see it, a headline from the Federal Wire, buried under local sports. Federal Commerce Bureau issues alert, counterfeit compliance labels discovered on East Coast logistics routes. My stomach clenches. My hand, the good one, goes cold. I click the link. It's a dry, boring article. It talks about falsified safety certificates being used to bypass interstate food-grade shipping protocols. It talks about fraudulent sanitation ratings. And then it says the fakes are often identified by misaligned signatory stamps and incorrect ink saturation on the border seals. I close my eyes. I can see it. The poster on the wall by the dish pit, the gold seal that wasn't embossed, it was flat. The blue ink of the border that was just a shade too light, too cyan. This wasn't just Bax Klein. This wasn't just my sleazy night manager trying to save a few bucks on overtime and expired chicken. This is bigger. This is organized. The fake certificate, the trucks that Bax signs for without checking, the Castillo syndicate. It's all one thing. Bax isn't the bottom. He's just the boot scraper. My phone buzzes on the nightstand. The sound makes me jump, a gasp catching in my throat. It's a prepaid phone, a burner. No one has this number except the commissary scheduling bot and my landlady. I pick it up. The screen glows. An unknown number. The message is 9 words. Drink warm water, 10 a.m. tomorrow. The herring and the bean, D.C. D.C. Dario Castillo. I stare at the screen. My hand starts shaking again. Harder this time. Drink warm water. How would he? He saw me shivering in the dish pit. He saw the adrenaline tremor. This isn't a suggestion. It's a command, like he's managing me, like I'm already on his payroll. The smart part of my brain, the clock girl part, is screaming at me. Block the number, delete the message, call in sick, find a new job, pack a bag, leave Port Laurels, now. You don't get involved with a syndicate. That's a capital S word. You don't take meetings from men who have other men standing in hallways, watching. Getting saved by a man like that isn't a gift. It's a marker. It's a debt. And I know all about debt. I'm still paying off Mark's stupid phone. The herring and the bean, I know it. It's a tiny, cramped coffee shop down by the old fish market, neutral ground. I walk to my kitchenette. It's just a 2-burner stove and a half fridge. I fill the kettle. I stand there. Listening to the whistle build, I pour the steaming water into a chipped ceramic mug. He's dangerous. Bax is dangerous in a way that's sloppy and stupid and predictable. This man, Dario Castillo, he's dangerous in a way that's precise, calculated. He's dangerous like one of my logbooks. I sip the water. The heat slides down my throat, unknotting something in my stomach. It doesn't stop the shaking, but it steadies my resolve. I can't run. Where would I even go to another kitchen? They're all the same. All owned by men cutting corners, all run by men like Bax. The only difference is, this kitchen, my kitchen, is apparently owned by him. I'm not going to be his asset. I'm not going to be his person. I'll be there at 10 a.m., on the dot. And I am going to look this man in his cold, dark eyes, and I am going to say 2 things. Thank you, and stay away from me. I'm going to set my own terms. I finish the water. I walk back to the bathroom. The fresh bandage on my hand already has a small pink spot seeping through. I unwrap it. Again. I apply more antiseptic, holding my breath against the sting. I find a thicker square of gauze and tape it down. My motions neat, economical. I hold my hand up under the single bare bulb. It's a slender hand, I guess. I got that from my mom. But it's not soft. It's covered in a map of tiny, white scars from paring knives and the sizzling edges of oven racks. And now, in the center, this new, angry red tear. It's a worker's hand. It's the only thing I truly own. I'm not letting Bax take it, and I'm not letting Dario Castillo claim it. I turn off the light. The attic goes black. 4 floors below, across the dark, rain-slicked street, the engine of a black sedan idles so quietly it's almost silent. The man in the passenger seat, his face lit only by the glow of his phone, taps the screen. She's lights out, boss. The speaker on the phone crackles. Dario's voice comes through, rougher than it was in the kitchen, layered with a fatigue that matches my own. Keep the distance. 4 blocks. I don't want her spooked. She saw you, boss. She's already spooked. There's a long pause on the line. She's not a target. Knocks. She's the standard. Just make sure she gets to the coffee shop in one piece. No one else touches her. The call ends. Miles away, in a car overlooking the dark, quiet harbor, Dario Castillo leans his head back against the cold leather. He's not thinking about the millions of dollars Bax was skimming. He's not thinking about the fake compliance certificate. He's thinking about the smell. When he walked into that dish pit, under the high-pitched shriek of the water and the chemical stench of bleach, he smelled something else. The sharp, metallic tang of blood, the sour smell of old, burnt grease, and underneath it all, faint but clear, the honest green scent of mint. It was the smell of the truth, and in his world, truth was the rarest, most expensive commodity of all. The Herring and the Bean is an 8-table shop crammed between a bail bondsman and a store that sells nothing but nautical rope. The windows were so fogged with steam and the morning chill that I couldn't see inside. I pushed the door open. A bell jingled, and a wave of hot air hit me, thick with the smell of burnt coffee and old, oily fish from the market next door. He was there, just as the text promised. Dario Castillo was in the back corner booth, the one with the cracked vinyl. He wasn't in his heavy coat from last night, he just wore a dark, simple sweater. His watch looked expensive, but it was understated. His jacket was hung neatly on the hook next to him. He was nursing a tiny white cup of espresso, his hands wrapped around it, as if for warmth. He looked up when the bell jingled. His eyes found me instantly. There was no surprise, no greeting, just acknowledgement. I walked over. My footsteps, quiet in my old work boots, felt loud in the small space. The only other sounds were the hissing of the espresso machine and 2 old men at the counter arguing about a fishing boat. I didn't wait to be invited. I slid into the booth opposite him. My small, black, spiral-bound notebook, my logbook, I took it out of my jacket pocket and placed it on the table between us. I didn't open it, it was just there, a line, a boundary. My territory. My bandaged hand rested on top of it. He looked at the notebook, then at my hand, then at my face. You came. I came, I said. My voice was steady. I was proud of that. I have 2 things to say. Thank you, and stay away from me. He didn't react. He just took a slow sip of his espresso. He set the cup down with a quiet click. You're welcome, he said. His voice was just as low as it was in the dish pit, but without the steel. Here. It was almost gentle. But I can't do the second one. Then you're not listening, I said. I'm not in your world. I'm not your people. I don't belong to anyone. For the first time, something in his expression changed. The corner of his mouth ticked up. Not quite a smile, but the shape of one. Good, he said. I'm glad to hear it. Free people need a gatekeeper. They don't need a master. And you're the gatekeeper. I'm the man who takes responsibility when other people get lazy, and he said, and Bax Klein got lazy, he got sloppy, and he got greedy. Who are you, really? I asked, the words sharper than I intended. He reached into the inside pocket of his jacket, the one hanging on the hook. He pulled out his phone and slid it across the table. It stopped right next to my notebook. I looked down. The screen was lit. It was a photo. A high-resolution photo of the compliance certificate I'd seen on the wall last night, the fake one, the one he'd ripped down. You already know what that is, he said. You were looking right at it when Bax grabbed you. My blood ran cold. He hadn't just been watching from the hallway. He'd been watching me. He swiped the screen. The next picture was a shipping invoice. A bill of lading for premium cooking oil delivered to the Wharf Line commissary. The sender was a company I'd never heard of, North Dock Logistics. Bax has been signing for 4 pallets of this every week for 6 months, Dario said quietly. We checked. Wharf Line's fryers only need about 1 pallet and a half. He swiped again. Another photo. This one was of a grimy, unmarked warehouse bay. In the corner, a man was pumping dark, used-looking oil from a grease trap receptacle into new, clean-labeled plastic drums. The drums had the North Dock Logistics logo on them. Recycled fryer grease, I whispered, the realization hitting me in the stomach. He's buying used oil, filtering it, and selling it back to us as new. Not just to you, Dario said, to half the ghost kitchens in Port Laurels. He's pocketing the difference, a few $1,000s a week. But that's not the problem. The problem is the certificate. It's a fake, I said. The ink is wrong. The seal is flat. You saw that, he said. It wasn't a question. Most people wouldn't, not even the inspectors, because the real inspectors never come. The internal audit, I started, is fake C2, he said. Bax pays them. They're not from corporate. They're from the Lattice Union. I frowned. I've heard of them. They post flyers, protecting the new economy, performance-based advocacy. They're a protection racket. Tess, dressed up as a labor guild, they go into these kitchens that are already operating on a shoestring budget, and they charge them efficiency fees. They audit them, find a dozen fake violations, and then offer to fix the problem for a monthly charge. They bleed these places dry, and in return, they give them fake certificates, like the one you saw, to keep the real city inspectors off their backs. It all clicked. The reason Bax was cutting my hours, the reason he was forcing us to use expired chicken, he wasn't just skimming, he was being squeezed. The bad food, the fake timesheets, it was all just him trying to make up the difference the Lattice Union was taking from him. So Bax is their man, I said. He was, Dario corrected, but he got sloppy. Selling recycled oil that's small time, that's messy. It brings attention. And that bad chicken that brings the health department, the real one. And if the health department shuts down the commissary, the entire operation goes dark. The Lattice Union loses its cash cow. And my family, we lose our investment. My head snapped up. Your family, the Castillo Syndicate, you own the Lattice Union? He actually laughed, a short, dry sound. God, no. We own the building. We own the commissary itself, the land it's on, the steel it's made from. My family has been in Port Laurel's logistics for 50 years. Tess, we lease that space to Wharfline. We are, for lack of a better word, their landlords, and the Lattice Union is a pest. They're termites in our house, and Bax was the fool who let them in. He leaned forward. The space between us felt electric, charged. Which brings me to you, he said. I told you, I said, my hand tightening on my notebook. I'm not getting involved. You already are. You've been involved every time you logged the correct temperature. You've been involved every time you threw out expired food. You are the only person in that entire kitchen who is doing the job. He pulled his phone back, and from the same pocket, he took out a single, new burner phone, a cheap, plastic flip phone. He set it on the table, then, next to it, he placed a small, white business envelope. It was thick. I am not asking you to spy, he said, his voice level. I'm not asking you to plant bugs or steal files. I'm asking you to do exactly what you have been doing, your job. But when you see something, a fake certificate, a bad invoice, a new face from the union, you don't write it in your book. You use this phone. You send one text. That's it. And if I do what happens, you'll get a text back, he said. It will say, we're handling it, and then you will go back to checking your timers. And when Bax, or whoever replaces him, comes at you, I will be there, before you even have time to worry. My eyes flicked to the envelope. It was bulging. What's that? Your overtime, he said. 18 hours, time and a half, plus a bonus for the hand and for the inconvenience. I looked at the envelope. I thought of my past due phone bill. I thought of my broken radiator, of the $1.99 pasta. It was probably more money than I'd seen in a year. I pushed it back across the table. I don't sell my hours. Mr. Castillo. His eyebrows went up. He seemed genuinely surprised. He looked from the envelope to my face. The flicker of a smile came back, this time more real. Okay, he said slowly. He picked up the envelope and put it back in his jacket. Then what do you want? I want Bax gone, I said. I want that kitchen to be clean. I want to be able to serve food without worrying that I'm poisoning someone. I tapped my notebook. I want the logbook to be the truth. He stared at me for a long time. The hissing of the steam wand filled the silence. A pair of eyes, he murmured, more to himself than to me. A pair of eyes that doesn't skip the fractions. He nodded. All right, The money was for your peace of mind, but I see you've already got that handled." He stood up. He was taller than I remembered. He put his jacket on. He wasn't a guy in a coffee shop anymore. He was the man from the kitchen. "Take the phone, Tess," he said. It wasn't a request. I looked at the cheap plastic. I picked it up. It felt cold in my good hand. He put a $10 bill on the table for his $2 espresso. He nodded at me. A quick, respectful dip of his chin. "Backs won't stop, you know," he said, his voice dropping low again. "For my ears only. He has to make his payment to the union, and he's not just moving bad oil." He leaned in, just an inch. "He's moving a different kind of cargo." He turned and walked out. The bell on the door jingled. I sat there, my heart hammering. The burner phone felt heavy, like a stone. I looked out the window. The steam had cleared a little. I saw Dario put his cap on, the same one from last night. He didn't get into a black sedan. He just joined the morning crowd on the sidewalk and disappeared. He melted into the city like a ghost. I was still staring at the empty space where he'd been when I saw them. Across the street, 2 men. They were standing by the loading dock of the fish market, which shared a wall with the commissary's back entrance. They were wearing bright yellow reflective vests, the kind city inspectors wear. They had clipboards. One of them was taking pictures of the dock's access points with his phone. They looked official. They looked exactly like the kind of people Bax would be terrified of. But I'd just been told the real inspectors never come. My hand went to my pocket, for my phone. Not the burner, my phone. I scrolled to Junie's name. She was my friend on the prep line, the only one who didn't call me Clock Girl. She was working the morning shift. I pressed call. She picked up on the second ring, her voice breathless. "Wharf line prep." "Junie, it's me, Tess." "Tess? Oh my God, are you okay? Bax he's in a mood. He said you're off the schedule." "I know. Listen to me. Are there any inspectors there? Anyone new?" "No, not yet. Why?" "If anyone shows up," I said, my voice low and urgent, watching the 2 men across the street. "If they have new stickers, new compliance posters, don't let them put anything up. Tell them you have to wait for the manager. Just look at the seal. Check the ink. Stall them." "Tess, what's going on?" A new truck, a big, white 18-wheeler, rumbled down the narrow street. It had a logo on the side I didn't recognize. Hawthorne Cold Chain. It slowed down, its reverse lights flashing, and began to back into the commissary's receiving bay. The second the truck started moving, the 2 men in the yellow vests snapped. They didn't walk. They moved. They put their clipboards under their arms, turned, and walked away in the opposite direction. Fast. They vanished around the corner just as the Hawthorne truck's ramp hit the concrete. They weren't inspectors. They were scouts. "Junie," I said, "I gotta go. Just be careful." I hung up. I sat back in the booth. The coffee in the air suddenly smelled bitter. My hand throbbed. I was in... Whether I'd taken the money or not, I was in... I opened my notebook, the one I'd put on the table as a barrier, the one he'd respected. I turned past my logs of freezer temperatures and bad chicken. I turned to the first blank page. I took a pen from my pocket, my bandaged hand making the movement awkward. I clicked it open, and at the top of the page, in my neat, precise print, I wrote a new rule. Don't let anyone sign off on the kitchen's truth. Dario pulled whatever string he pulls. And the next day, my name was back on the schedule. Junie said Bax didn't even mention it. He just pinned the new sheet up and walked away. When I clocked in, he just stared at me, his eyes full of a dull, heavy resentment. He didn't say a word. The silence was worse than the yelling. I went straight to the inventory terminal, the old beige computer in the dry goods office. I'd been logging those temperatures in my own book for a year. I knew the system cycles. I knew, for example, that the case of pork loin delivered on the 16th was due to expire today, the 22nd. Wait. I typed in the SKU. The screen flickered. Item pork loin, bone-in. Received 10/20 seconds. Expires 10/28. My blood went cold. He'd done it. He hadn't just re-stickered the boxes. He'd gone into the mainframe. I checked another item. The chicken from 2 nights ago. Received 10:20 seconds. Expires 10:26. He'd flattened the entire inventory. Every item that had come in over the last week had been received today. All the red flags, all the expiration dates, all the lot numbers, they were gone, wiped clean. It was a digital ghost, a perfectly fresh, perfectly compliant, perfectly fake kitchen. I heard voices from Bax's office, the little glass-walled box that overlooked the prep line. Bax was in there, leaning over someone. Arlie, the IT kid. Arlie was 19, maybe 20, a community college student who came in twice a week to fix the receipt printers. He looked terrified. "It's just an optimization script. Mr. Klein," Arlie was saying, his voice high and thin. It batch updates the intake logs. It's more efficient." Good, that's efficient," Anai, Bax said, patting him on the shoulder. "You're a smart kid. Here, for your time." He passed him a small, folded bundle of cash. Arlie's eyes were fixed on the monitor. He was running the script again. I saw the lines of code flash. Update DBO. Inventory set intake date =, October 22nd, 25. Where? Intake date. October 22nd, 25. A single line of code. That's all it took to erase the truth, to make 6 days of potential rot disappear. I stepped back, into the shadow of the tall metal shelving. I pulled out my phone, my own phone, not the burner. I angled it through a gap in the shelves. I hit record. I filmed the screen. I filmed Arlie's face, pale and sweaty. I filmed Bax counting out the money. It was shaky. It was grainy, but it was proof. "Now, get out of here," Bax said. Arlie practically ran out of the office. Bax didn't see me, and he was too busy, and he was at the receiving bay, signing for a new shipment. It wasn't Hawthorne. It was an unmarked white van. The driver handed over 2 large insulated styrofoam boxes. They were heavy. I watched from the prep line. Bax took them into the walk-in freezer himself. I waited 5 minutes, then went in, pretending to check the thermostat I'd fixed. The boxes were there. The label said, "Organic grass-fed tenderloin." But the label was new. It had been stuck on top of another one. I could see the edge of the old sticker underneath. I used my thumbnail, the one on my good hand, and I picked at the corner. The new label was cheap. It peeled right off. Underneath, the real label. Ground beef scrap for render only. My stomach turned. This wasn't just old chicken. This wasn't just dirty oil. This was poison. This was fraud on a level I couldn't comprehend. For render only meant it wasn't fit for animals, let alone people. And he was labeling it organic tenderloin. I didn't have time to peel the whole thing. I snapped a picture of the double label. I memorized the lot number on the original sticker. BAP 771K. "Rivera, you live in there now," Bax yelled from the doorway. I dropped the label, my heart pounding. "Just checking the temp, Bax. It's holding at 33. He grunted. "Good, you're on the line tonight. 9 to close." "That's not my shift," I said. "Junie is on." "Junie's kid is sick. She tried to call out. I told her if she calls out, she's out for good. So she's working, unless you want to take it." He smiled. He thought he had me. He thought he was offering me a punishment. "Fine," and I said, "I'll take it. Tell her to go home." He looked surprised. 9 p.m. to, let's say, 3 a.m., maybe 4. Don't be late. Junie hugged me so tight I thought my ribs would crack. "Tess, I can't thank you." "Go," I said. "Just go. Be with your son." I went home. I slept for 4 hours. And at 8:30 p.m., I walked back into the kitchen. It was a different place after midnight. The delivery app tickets printed out in a constant, chattering stream. The kitchen was hot, loud, and frantic. But at 2 a.m., it hit a wall. The orders stopped. The prep cooks started cleaning their stations. The air grew heavy and quiet. And then I heard the sound, a high-pitched hiss. It was coming from the utility closet near the dish pit. I pushed the door open. A pipe, a 3-inch thick main water line, had a pinhole leak. It was spraying a needle-fine jet of scalding hot water right at a rusted electrical junction box. Steam was pouring from the connection. I ran. Bax, we've got a hot water leak. It's hitting the main junction box. It's gonna short. It could start a fire. Bax was in his office, his feet up, reading a magazine, and he didn't even look up. It's 2 a.m. Put a bucket under it. We'll call maintenance tomorrow. Tomorrow, Bax. It's spraying on the electrics. The whole panel could blow. Then stay away from it, War, he snapped. I'm not paying a plumber emergency rates. End of discussion. I stood there, furious. I looked at the hissing, and he was going to let the place blow up, just to save a few $100. Fine, I said. I went back. I found the main water shutoff valve. It was behind the ice machine, covered in grime. The wheel was rusted. It wouldn't budge. I put my good hand on it. I put my bad, bandaged hand on it. I put my entire body weight into it. The gash on my palm screamed, a fresh, hot pain. The bandage was instantly soaked, but I felt the wheel groan. Clank, clank, clank. I turned it, inch by painful inch, until the hissing sound finally died. I was leaning against the wall, breathing hard, cradling my bleeding hand, when the fire door opened. It wasn't Dario. It was 3 men in matching dark blue polo shirts and clipboards. They looked like accountants. Wharfline commissary, the lead man said. He had a pencil-thin mustache. Bax was out of his office in a second. Gentlemen, you're early. We like to be early. Mr. Klein, the man said. This is a performance audit. We're here on behalf of the Lattice Union to ensure optimized output. They weren't inspectors. They were the efficiency experts, the protection racket. They walked the line, their eyes cold. Fryer oil temperature is 3 degrees below optimal. One said, that's a 0.7% loss in product crispness. Your dish pit rinse cycle is 5 seconds too long. Another one said, that's a 9% waste in water resources. They were making it up. The numbers were nonsense, designed to sound official, designed to be impossible to fight. I'd had enough. Excuse me, I said. All 3 of them turned. Bax's face went white with panic. Who are you? The lead man asked. Tess Rivera, intake. I held up my phone like I was checking a message. I need to see your credentials, your city certification, your inspector's license. The man smiled, a thin, ugly smile. He pulled a laminated card from his pocket. Lattice Union Regional Facilitator. I looked at it. It looked real. It had a seal. It had a number. But I'd spent my whole life on the docks. My dad was union. I knew the state licensing codes. All labor guild facilitators start with a 7-7. His started with a 4-9. It was fake, just like the certificate on the wall. Thank you. I said. I angled my phone just for a second. The camera clicked. I got a perfect, high-resolution shot of the fake ID. I have to get back to the line. I walked away. I could feel their eyes on my back. As they were leaving, after handing Bax a long sheet of fines, he cornered me by the lockers. He leaned in, his voice a low, threatening rumble. That was stupid, clock girl. You think you're smart. You're not. You don't want to lose this place. It's cold out there. I just looked at him. I shut off the water. You're welcome. I got home at 4 a.m. My hand was a wreck. I was rebandaging it for the 3rd time when the burner phone vibrated. One message from Dario. Unload tonight at Pier 9. Don't go near it. D.C. My heart hammered. Pier 9. That was the old cargo pier, the one that had been decommissioned. That's where North Dock Logistics, the dirty oil company, had its warehouse. That's where the Hawthorne truck had gone. Don't go near it. He was warning me. He was telling me to stay safe. But I couldn't. I thought of the label. Ground beef scrap. BAP 771K. I thought of that meat, that poison going out into the city, labeled as organic. I had to go. I put on my darkest clothes, my old work boots. I took the burner phone and my own. Pier 9 was a graveyard of shipping containers. The high-pressure sodium lamps overhead flickered, casting huge, dancing shadows. The air smelled of cold metal, diesel, and dead fish. I stayed in the shadows, moving between stacks of rusted containers. I saw it. The Hawthorne truck backed up to the loading bay of the North Dock warehouse. but the men loading it weren't in Hawthorne uniforms. They were the same men who delivered the tenderloin to Bax. They were moving fast. They were taking insulated styrofoam boxes off the Hawthorne truck and relabeling them. They were slapping new stickers on, right there on the dock. I got closer. I hid behind a forklift. I could see the boxes. The original labels, the ones they were peeling off, were plain white, Blue Arrow Partners. The new labels, the ones they were putting on Hawthorne Cold Chain. And I saw the other boxes, the ones from the van, my organic tenderloin. They were slapping Hawthorne labels on those, too. It was a shell game. Blue Arrow Partners, a company I'd never heard of, was the source. Hawthorne was the delivery. And North Dock was the laundromat. "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" A voice like gravel. I froze. A man, built like a refrigerator, was walking toward me. He must have seen my shadow move. "This is a restricted area, girl. You lost." I was trapped. The container was at my back. He was blocking my only way out. I think I dropped my wallet," I stammered. "You're in the wrong place to find it," he said, taking another step. He was reaching for his belt. "She's looking for my lighter." The voice came from the darkness. To my left, Dario Castillo stepped out from between two containers. He wasn't wearing a coat, just a dark shirt. His hands were in his pockets. He looked calm. The big driver stopped. He looked at Dario. He looked at me. His eyes narrowed. "Who the hell are you?" "I'm the guy she's with," Dario said. He took his hand out of his pocket. He was holding a cheap, disposable lighter. "She's always losing this. We'll get out of your way." The driver stared at Dario's face. I could see the moment the recognition clicked, the driver's whole body language changed. He went from predator to employee. "Yeah, sure," the driver mumbled. "Just this is an active bay. Be careful." He backed away, turned, and disappeared into the warehouse. The second he was gone, Dario grabbed my arm, my good arm. He pulled me back into the deepest shadow, his grip like a steel clamp. He was furious. "I told you," he hissed, his voice a low, violent whisper. "I told you. Do not come here. What part of that did you not understand?" "That meat," I whispered back, just as fiercely, ripping my arm out of his grasp. "The stuff in the boxes, it's scrap. It's for rendering. They're labeling it organic tenderloin. I know what it is. That's why I'm here. That's not your job." "If no one watches, the whole dock becomes a faulty slaughterhouse," I shot back, my voice shaking with adrenaline. "You told me to do my job. That's what I'm doing." He stared at me. The flickering orange light caught his face. The anger was still there, but it was mixed with something else. Frustration, maybe respect. "You're a piece of work. Tess Rivera," he breathed. "Boss." A new voice. A man stepped out of the shadow behind Dario. He was built like a shadow, thin, quiet, and impossible to see until he was right there. This was Knox, the man from the phone call. He just looked at me, his face completely blank. "She's fine, Knox," Dario said, running a hand through his hair. "She's fine." He turned back to me, and he looked exhausted. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a tiny, black USB thumb drive. He pressed it into my good hand. "What's this?" I asked. "Insurance," he said. "Everything I have on the Lattice Union, on Blue Arrow Partners, on this whole damn operation. It's encrypted. It's a dead man's switch. If I get picked up, if Knox gets picked up, the key gets released to the feds." "Why are you giving it to me?" "Because you're not in the game. You're the civilian. You're the only one here who's clean." His eyes were intense. "If you fall, Tess, if Bax or the Union or anyone else makes a move on you, I need this data to fall in the right direction. It's your only leverage. Now go home, and this time, stay there." Knox pointed to a gap in the fence. "This way. Your car is 3 blocks over. Go." I clutched the thumb drive. I didn't say thank you. I just ran. I got to my car. My old hatchback felt like a fortress. I locked the doors, my hands shaking so bad I could barely get the key in the ignition. I started driving. I was 3 blocks from my apartment when I saw it. A dark sedan. No, a work car. I saw the logo on the side as it passed under a streetlight, North Dock Logistics. It was following me. It had been waiting for me. My heart leaped into my throat. I sped up. It sped up. I made a right turn. It made a right turn. It was staying right on my tail. Close. I was on my own street. I was almost home. The sedan pulled up right next to me. The passenger window was coming down. Screech! A black sedan, Dario's sedan, shot out of a side alley I didn't even know existed. It slammed into the street, cutting the North Dock car off perfectly, blocking it. It was a perfect perpendicular block. I didn't stop. I slammed my foot on the gas. I looked in my rearview mirror for just 1 second. I saw Dario get out of his car. Knox got out of the passenger side. They didn't run. They just walked, calmly, toward the car that had been following me. I turned the corner. I didn't look back. I drove. My hands were locked on the steering wheel at 10 and 2. So tight my knuckles were white. I didn't see what happened to the North Dock Logistics car. I just saw Dario's black sedan in my rearview mirror, a solid, immovable wall of steel blocking them. Then I was gone. My heart was a hummingbird in my chest. I was 2 miles away, my old hatchback rattling as I pushed it too fast, when the burner phone vibrated in the console. The sound made me jump so hard I nearly swerved into the next lane. I fumbled for it, my good hand steering, my bandaged one useless. A new text from D.C. Pull over, gas station, 2 blocks north. Get out. Wait. It was a command. My brain screamed at me to go home, to lock my 4-bolt lock and hide in my attic. But I knew home wasn't safe. They had my plate. They knew my car. I pulled into the dark, slick lot of a shuttered gas and go. I cut the engine. The only sound was the tick, tick, tick of my cooling engine and the first drops of a serious rain. A minute later, his sedan glided in, headlights off, silent as a shark. He didn't park next to me. He parked at the exit, blocking the only way out. He got out and walked toward my car. The rain was starting to come down, hard and cold. He tapped on my window. I flinched, then rolled it down. The cold air hit my face. "Leave the car," he said. "What, Leave it. They got your plate. They might have put a tracker on it at the pier. The car is compromised." He opened my door. "You are compromised. Let's go. I'm taking you somewhere safe. It's not your apartment." There was no room for argument. I grabbed my bag. I left my car. I got into the passenger seat of his. It was clean. It smelled like clean leather and cold night air. Nothing like my car, which smelled perpetually of fryer grease and old coffee. He got in, and the car moved, pulling smoothly onto the street. The rain went from hard to a full-on deluge. It was a wall of water, a solid gray sheet. The wipers on his sedan were powerful, but they were fighting a losing battle, swishing in a frantic, hypnotic rhythm. He didn't drive fast. He drove with that same infuriating, precise control. He took us out of the city center, away from my neighborhood, toward the old industrial flats. He turned the car down a gravel track I never knew existed, the tires crunching. He rolled to a stop under the massive, skeletal overhang of an abandoned steel factory. The dark iron cage of the hollow bridge loomed over us, a black skeleton against the roaring gray sky. He killed the engine. The silence was deafening. No, not silence. The sound of the rain hammering on the corrugated tin roof above us was a physical force. 1,000 fists drumming, isolating us from the rest of the world. We were in a tiny, dry bubble, surrounded by chaos. I was still vibrating. The adrenaline from the pier, from the chase, was still zinging through my veins, making my teeth chatter. My hands, resting in my lap, were shaking so hard I had to clench them into fists. My bad hand throbbed, a dull, hot pulse. He noticed. He didn't say anything, but his gaze dropped to my clenched fists. "Tess." His voice was quiet, but it cut through the roar of the rain. I couldn't look at him. I just stared at the wall of water in front of us. "What do you think you are?" he asked. The anger from the pier was back, cold and sharp. A spy, a soldier, you think you can just walk onto a hostile dock in the middle of a meet because you have a hunch. That finally made me turn. I had more than a hunch, I snapped, my voice loud in the small space. It was the BAP 771K. It was the scrap meat I saw them. Dario, they were relabeling poison. And what were you going to do? He countered, his voice rising. Stop them. Take on a dozen dock workers by yourself. You got followed. Tess, you were almost grabbed. You led them right to your car. You were there, I shouted, the words ripping out of me. You were watching. You could have stopped me. You used me. But I told you to stay home, he roared, his control finally snapping. The sound was shocking. He slammed his open palm on the dashboard, and the sound made me jump. I told you, do not go near it. I had it covered. Knox was moving in. We had it handled. And then you just walk right into the middle of it. Like you're invincible. Because you don't get it. I was crying now. Hot, angry tears that I hated. They mixed with the rain that was still on my face. You think it's just cargo? You think it's just numbers on a ledger? You're just like them. That is food. That's what people eat. That's not a loss or an investment, but it's life. And I won't let them. I won't let anyone sign off on that. The car went silent. My breathing was ragged, a gasping, wet sound. His was a low, controlled hiss. The rain hammered down, on the roof, on the hood, on the gravel all around us. He stared out the windshield, his hands gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles were white. He let out a long, slow breath. It was like all the air, all the fight, went out of him at once. You're right, he said. I blinked, sniffing, wiping my nose on my sleeve. What? He turned to me. The anger was gone, his eyes in the dim, watery light of the storm. They just looked tired, so incredibly tired. It's cargo, he said, his voice flat. That's how I was raised. You protect the asset. You secure the shipment. You manage the risk. You move things. He leaned his head back against the leather headrest. I am very, very good at protecting cargo. Tess, I know how to track a container. I know how to secure a warehouse. I know the cost, down to the penny, of every single thing I own. He paused, his throat working. I am not used to this. I am not used to protecting a person, especially not a person who doesn't listen. A person who runs toward the fire. He turned his head, his eyes finding mine in the gloom. A person who makes me want to stop, to just stop. It was the strangest, most awkward, most honest confession I had ever heard. A man who runs the docks, a Castillo. The man who had terrified Bax Klein with a single look, admitting he was confused. A small, weird sound bubbled up in my chest. It was a laugh. It was a short, wet, hysterical sound, a half sob, half laugh. He looked at me, his expression baffled. What's funny? You, I said, wiping my eyes. You sound like you just found a stray kitten in one of your shipping containers. I don't know what to do with this. It's not cargo. The tension didn't just break, it shattered. A small, real smile touched his lips. You're not a kitten, Tess. Good, I don't like cats. You're a complication. I'm Clock Girl, I said, my voice finally steady. I just checked the numbers. He was still looking at me. The rain had plastered a stray piece of my hair to my cheek. He reached out slowly, like he was afraid I'd flinch. He used his thumb to brush the wet hair away from my face. His fingers were rough, calloused in their own way, but his touch was light. His thumb grazed my skin, just once, right on the curve of my cheekbone. It lit a fuse. It was the lightest touch, but it traveled all the way down my spine, a jolt of pure, clean heat that had nothing to do with adrenaline. I stopped breathing. The rain was a dull roar outside. Inside, all I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears, a sound like the ocean. I looked at his eyes, really looked at them. I saw the man from the kitchen. I saw the boss from the pier. But underneath that, I saw what he'd just admitted, the loneliness, the man who only knew how to deal with things, the power he held. It was a cage. And I realized, in that one suspended second, I wasn't afraid of him. Not anymore. I don't know why I did it. Maybe because I was tired of being scared. Maybe because he was the first person in years who had seen me, really seen me. The logbooks, the stubbornness, the torn up hands, and hadn't tried to break me or fire me or ignore me. I leaned in. I put my good hand, my left hand, on the side of his neck. His skin was warm. I felt the strong, steady pulse there, and I kissed him. It was short. It was clumsy. My lips were cold from the rain. It was chaste. Almost just a press of mouths. I was shaking. He didn't move. He just froze. I pulled back instantly, my face burning. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have... He didn't speak, just put his hand over mine, the one I still had on his neck. His other hand came up, cupping my jaw, his thumb brushing my cheekbone, right where it had been before. His eyes searched mine. It wasn't a look of hunger. It was a look of assessment. It was him asking, non-verbally, "Are you sure?" I didn't speak. I just nodded, a tiny, almost imperceptible movement. That's all it took. He leaned in this time, and there was nothing clumsy about it. His lips met mine, and this time, it wasn't a question. It was an answer. It was warm. It was firm. It was precise. He wasn't demanding. He wasn't rough. He was learning. His mouth was so soft, moving against mine with a controlled release of all the tension that had been building between us since the moment he walked into that dish pit. I felt a shudder go through him. Or maybe it was me. I couldn't tell. He didn't just kiss me. He anchored me. The adrenaline shaking, the fear, the cold, it all just stopped. It evaporated, replaced by this solid, quiet heat. His hand slid from my jaw, around to the back of my neck, his fingers tangling in my damp hair. He tilted my head, and the kiss deepened. Just a fraction. It was still slow. It was still careful. But now it was a conversation. I moved, clumsy in the confined space, shifting across the center console. I was pressed against his side. I could feel the solid muscle of his chest through his damp shirt. My good hand fisted in the fabric. My bandaged hand was pressed, awkwardly, between us. I could feel his heart. It was hammering. It wasn't the slow, controlled beat of the man who ran the docks. It was fast. It was human. And it was matching mine. Thump, 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 thump. I could smell him. Not just the leather of his car. Him. He smelled like the night air. Like rain. And like something clean and warm and uniquely his. I leaned my head against his shoulder, my forehead pressed to his neck. His arms came around me, pulling me securely against him. One hand splayed across my back, the other still tangled in my hair. He just held me. We didn't move. We just sat there, wrapped up, breathing. The rain on the roof was our soundtrack. My heart rate slowly began to slow down, to fall into sync with his. "Tess," he whispered. His voice was rough, like gravel. "Don't," I whispered back. "Don't talk, not yet." He respected that. He just held me tighter, his chin resting on the top of my head. I felt safe, not just not in danger, but actively, tangibly safe. It was a feeling I hadn't realized I'd been missing so badly. After a long time, the rain started to ease, the drumming on the roof softening to a steady patter. He eased back. Not all the way, just enough to look at me. His eyes were dark, the pupils wide. He started, then stopped. He seemed to be fighting for that control again. "I want you safe," he said, and the words sounded like they were pulled from him. Before any of this, before the docks, before Bax, before the union, "I want you safe. And I want this." He gestured between us. "Whatever this is, to be clean, healthy." He met my eyes. No debts, no trades. He was drawing a line. He was separating the night, the danger, from this. From us. He wasn't trading protection for what just happened. He was making them two separate things. I respected that more than he knew. I nodded, a real small smile coming this time. "Okay, safe." I sat back in my own seat, pulling my jacket tighter. The warmth from his body lingered on my skin. So, I said, my voice almost back to normal, if we're going to be safe, we should probably start by taking the docs back from the people who are faking the paperwork. He stared at me for a long second, and then the last of the tension broke. He let out a low chuckle. You just can't stop, can you? Clock girl. It's just bad math, Dario, I said, feeling the heat rise in my own cheeks. And I hate bad math. He shook his head, but he was smiling. He started the car. The engine rumbled to life. The spell was broken. The fire that had been lit between us, it was still there. It was an ember, banked and carefully contained. But we both knew it was there. And it was pointed in the same direction. It wasn't going to consume us. It was going to forge something. All right, he said, pulling the car onto the gravel track. Let's go fix the math. He didn't take me to my apartment. He didn't take me to his. He took me to a place that was neither a high-floor condo in a glass and steel building downtown that he'd never used. It was clean, anonymous and sterile, smelling of nothing but new carpet and paint. It was the safest place in Port Laurels. He poured 2 glasses of water, his back to me. The city lights spread out below us like a circuit board. My family doesn't deal in spoiled food, he said, his voice quiet. He handed me a glass. Our fingers brushed. The spark from the car, that banked ember, was still there. It made the handshake, the casual touch, feel incredibly loud. We deal in logistics, he continued, moving to the window. We own the warehouses. We own the land the commissary is built on. We own the ships that bring in the real cargo. We are a legitimate, multi-million-dollar logistics company. Tess, we're the landlords, not the tenants. So why? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Why the syndicate? Why was Bax so afraid of you? Because we're old Port Laurels, he said. The name still carries weight from my grandfather's day. And we protect our investments, violently, if we have to. The Lattice Union, North Dock, Blue Arrow partners, they're not just pests. They're a disease. They're bringing federal attention to my docks. They're poisoning the well, literally and figuratively. They're making my legitimate clients nervous. He finally turned to me. This isn't just about Bax's little side hustle. He's a pawn, the man running him, the man who runs the Lattice Union. The man who created Blue Arrow Partners as a shell to move his dirty product, his name is Marcel Vane. I'd seen that name. Vane Logistics, the guy from the business journals, he's on billboards. Vane clean, fast, reliable. He's the cleanest looking man in the city, Dario said, a bitter edge to his voice. And he's built an empire on a lie. He uses the union to muscle his way into kitchens, forces them to pay his efficiency fees. Then he uses his other companies, like Blue Arrow, to sell them the very compliant and very toxic food they need to pass the union's fake inspections. He controls the disease and the cure, and he's laundering the money through my properties. He's making me his partner without my permission. I processed this. It was a closed loop. It was brilliant, and it was deeply, horrifyingly rotten. So you're just going to go to war with him, I asked? That's one way, Dario said. It's messy. It's loud. People get hurt. I looked out the window. All those lights, all those people eating food delivered from kitchens Vane was poisoning. No, I said. Don't attack him. He's clean. He's Teflon. You attack his motto. Dario turned, his eyebrows raised. Clean, fast, reliable. That's his brand, but it's a lie. You don't hit him with muscle. You hit him with a better set of numbers. You attack his reliability. A slow smile spread across Dario's face. It was the first genuine, unguarded smile I'd ever seen from him. It changed his entire face. A pair of eyes that doesn't skip the fractions, he murmured. Okay, clock girl, how do we do it? The next day, we weren't in a condo. We were in a blast-proof back office at Sable Row, a steel fabrication plant owned by an old family friend of Dario's. It was loud, smelled of ozone and hot iron, and was completely, beautifully offline. And I met Knox, really met him. He wasn't just a shadow. He was a data savant. He had a bank of laptops that looked like they'd been through a war, but they were lightning fast. Tess, he said, nodding, It was the first word I'd heard him speak. "Hi," I said. For 2 days. We worked. Knox pulled data from places I didn't ask about. He got the complete shipping manifests for North Dock and Hawthorne. He got the incorporation papers for Blue Arrow Partners. He got the bank transfers from the Lattice Union. My job was to make it make sense. I taped huge sheets of butcher paper to the concrete wall. I drew a flow chart, arrows, timelines. "This is the money flow," I explained, drawing a red line from the Lattice Union's account to a holding company. "This is the product flow." I drew a blue line from Blue Arrow Partners to the North Dock warehouse, then splitting to the Hawthorne trucks and Bax's unmarked vans. "They don't match," I said, tapping the paper. "The money is clean, the product is dirty, but the timing is the key." I went back to the logs I had managed to copy from the wharf line terminal, Bax's bogus operating expenses, and I found it. "Here," I said, my fingers shaking, "a supplemental cold storage fee. He billed corporate for it twice last week, a big one, $5,000. "So he's skimming," Dario said, leaning over my shoulder. I could feel the heat from his body. I forced myself to focus. "No," I said. "Look at the dates. October 16th, October 19th. I went on the city utilities website. I cross-referenced the Piers Power Grid reports. I pulled up another file. There were scheduled brownouts on the docks on the 16th and the 19th for 3 hours. The main cold storage compressors would have been offline. He wasn't paying for supplemental cooling. He was billing for cooling that didn't exist. He was faking the data to cover the cost of the brownout, probably to pay his union fees." Knox was typing, his fingers a blur. "She's right," he said, his voice flat. "The fee payment to Lattice Union, it matches the cooling fee, minus 10% to the dollar." It was the dark accounting, the shadow ledger. "So we have him," Dario said. "We have Bax," I corrected. "We need Vane, and Vane is clean. He'll just cut Bax loose, say he was a rogue employee." "So how do we link them?" "With a control group," I said, the idea hitting me. "We create a twin ledger. We use this place, Sable Row. You said they have a clean warehouse. We'll use it as a benchmark. We'll show, side by side, what a real, clean, verifiable operation looks like. Real power logs, real temperature logs, real invoices. And then we put Vane's operation, the brownouts, the fake fees, the render-only meat right next to it. We don't have to say he's a criminal. We just have to show he's a liar. The market will do the rest." Dario looked at me, his eyes full of a dark, intense admiration that made my stomach flutter. "A twin ledger," he said. That's good. That's really good." "We need more data from inside," Knox said. "We have the intake. We need the output. Where is this stuff going?" As if on cue, Dario's burner phone buzzed. He read the text. His face darkened. "Intel. Vane is furious about the night at the pier. He thinks someone is watching him. He's accelerating. He's pushing Bax to move the last of the BAP 771K lot tonight." "Where?" I asked. "A new client, high-end, off-books, a restaurant called the Velvet Finch." I'd heard of it. It was one of those impossible-to-get-into places where a steak costs $400. They'd never risk using bad meat. "They would if they were getting it for free," Dario said, "or if Vane is a silent partner. Bax is making the delivery himself before sunrise." "We can't get in," Knox said. "It's members only. Biometric locks on the service entrance." "No," Dario said, a slow, dangerous smile touching his lips. He looked at me. "But their inventory scanning system, it's been glitchy. Vane just sent out an urgent call for a tech. He's sending Arlie." "Arlie," I said, "the IT kid." "The one," and Dario tapped his phone. "Arlie is terrified. He just put in a request for an intake specialist to come with him, to help him calibrate the SKU codes for the new scanner." He reached into his jacket. He didn't pull out a weapon. He pulled out a simple, elegant silver pen. "I'm not asking you to go to war, Tess," he said, his voice soft. "I'm asking you to be what you are, an auditor. You're just going to document the process." He showed me the clip. A tiny, pinprick hole. High definition audio and video. Do not aim it at faces. Aim it at the paperwork, the boxes, the process, the lies. Knox will be in your ear. I'll be 4 blocks out. Listening to every second. You are in and out in 15 minutes. The velvet finch was all dark wood, crimson velvet and hushed quiet. It felt like a church for rich people. Arlie was a wreck, his hands shaking so badly he could barely hold his tablet. I don't know why they need this at 3 a.m. Miss Rivera, he stammered. It's fine, Arlie, I said, my voice calm. The pen was in my shirt pocket. Let's just get the scanner calibrated and go. We went into the kitchen. It was spotless. Stainless steel gleaming under soft, expensive lighting. A manager in a crisp suit led us to the walk-in. This is the new intake, the manager said, pointing to a stack of styrofoam boxes. The Hawthorne delivery. Just make sure your system can read our internal tags. He walked away, his shoes silent on the tile. Arlie fumbled with the scanner. I walked to the walk-in, and I saw it. Taped to the gleaming steel door, a handwritten note on expensive, cream-colored stationery. All Hawthorne deliveries temp check, redate, and store in Bay 4. Do not mix with main stock. M.V. Marcel Vane, his initials. It was the smoking gun. Proof. They knew. I angled my body, checking the seals on the door. The pen in my pocket had a perfect, clear shot of the note. Got it, Knox's voice whispered in my ear. It was so clear. It was like he was next to me. Arlie, I said, let's test the scanner on these boxes. I pointed to the stack. The organic tenderloin labels were right on top, but I could see the lot number. BAP 771K, the same ones from the pier. Arlie aimed the scanner. He was trembling. Oh, man, he whispered, so low I could barely hear him. That's the Blue Arrow stuff. I saw the invoices on Mr. Klein's computer. I thought that was just Bax's thing. But Mr. Vane's office, they said Blue Arrow Partners pays their invoices so fast. They pay in 10 minutes. He was confessing. His voice was thick with panic. All good, Arlie, I said, my own heart hammering. Just scan the box. We're almost done. Audio is clear, Knox whispered. You have the note. You have the confession. You have the boxes. Route is clear. Service corridor on your left. Dario, I heard a faint crackle. It was Dario's voice. Patch through. 4 blocks out, all quiet. Get her out, Knox. Okay, Arlie, I said, turning. I think we're... I stopped. A man was standing in the kitchen doorway. He wasn't a chef. He was big, wearing a black suit that was too tight, and he had a lattice union pin on his lapel. He had been watching us. He stared at me. His eyes weren't on my face. They were on my shirt, on the pen. That's a fancy-looking pen, he said, his voice a low rumble. He took a step toward me. Clip looks a little thick. You a writer. My blood turned to ice. He reached out a hand, thick as a brick. Let me see that. My heart stopped. I couldn't breathe. Whee! The sound was so loud, so piercing. It felt like a needle in my ear. The fire alarm. Bright red strobe lights started flashing, painting the steel kitchen in blood. What the hell? The lattice man yelled, his hand recoiling, clapping over his ear. Fire alarm, Knox's voice said, calm and cool in my ear. Experimental smoke test. Service corridor. On your left. Go. Now. Tess. I didn't think. I moved. I shoved past Arlie, who was frozen in terror. The lattice guy was confused, looking up at the strobe. I didn't run. I just walked, fast, with purpose. Just another employee heading for the exit. I hit the service corridor. I pushed the panic bar on the steel door. The cold night air hit my face. It was 3:30 in the morning. The alley was dark, smelling of rain and garbage. I ran. My work boots pounded the wet pavement. I turned the corner. I ran 2 blocks. 3. The dark alley Dario had pointed out on the map. The black sedan was there. It was idling, the passenger door already open. I dove in. I wasn't even fully in the seat before the tires screeched. The car shot out of the alley, throwing me back against the leather. I was gasping, my lungs burning. My hand was clutched, white-knuckled, around the pen. Dario didn't look at me. His eyes were on the road, on the mirrors, his face a hard, grim mask. We drove for a full minute in total silence, the sound of my breathing filling the car. "Are you okay?" he finally asked. His voice was tight, strained. I couldn't speak. I just nodded, gasping. I held up the pen. "I got it." I choked out, "The note, the boxes. I got Arlie's confession." He took his right hand off the steering wheel. He didn't take the pen. He just covered my hand with his. His hand was warm and strong, and it completely enveloped my fist, his thumb pressed down, hard on my knuckles. He let out a long, slow, shuddering breath, a breath I hadn't even realized he was holding. "I know, Tess," he said, and his voice was rough, full of a tension that was just now breaking. "I know, Knox saw the whole thing. We all did." He squeezed my hand, once a hard, grounding pressure. "Good work," he said. He looked at me then, just for a second, his eyes dark and full of a raw, unfiltered relief. "Let's go. We have everything." We were on a victory high for almost exactly 12 hours. I was in the sterile, safe house condo, my boots off, my notebook open on the glass coffee table. Knox was at a laptop, his fingers flying, pulling the audio from the pen, cleaning it up, isolating Arlie's voice. Dario was standing by the window, his back to us, watching the morning traffic. He hadn't slept. I hadn't either. "Got it," Knox said, his voice flat with satisfaction. "Arlie's confession is clean. The file from the pen is uncorrupted. We have Vane's handwritten note. We have the BAP lot numbers. We have it all." As if summoned by the words, Dario's burner phone vibrated. He put it to his ear. He didn't say hello. He just listened. I watched his shoulders tense, his free hand clenching into a fist at his side. "Where is he?" Dario said, his voice low. He listened. "I understand," but he hung up. He turned from the window. The small residual smile from our escape was gone, replaced by a mask of cold, hard granite. "That was my contact at City Hall," he said. "Vane isn't running. He's not hiding. He's hitting back, with paper." Before I could ask what that meant, my own phone buzzed. A text from Junie. "Tess, there are men here, in expensive suits. They're not from Lattice. They're asking for you. They said Civic Mediation Board. I'm scared." My blood turned to ice. "I have to go." "No," Dario commanded. "They're there for you. It's a trap." "It's not a trap. Dario, it's a play. If I don't show, I look guilty, I'm going." I was out the door before he could stop me. I took a cab. When I got to Wharf Line, the place was quiet. The morning prep shift was standing around, looking nervous. And there, by the loading dock, was Bax. He was wearing his cleanest chef's whites, and he had a look of smug, petty triumph on his face. Two men in dark, expensive-looking suits stood beside him. They looked like undertakers. "Miss Tess Rivera," one of them asked. He had a thin, leather briefcase. "I'm Tess." He opened the briefcase and produced a single, thick envelope. "We are representatives from the Civic Mediation Board. We've received a formal and deeply concerning complaint regarding your activities at this facility. This is a formal warning and a notice of immediate, indefinite suspension." I took the envelope. My hands weren't even shaking. I was too cold. I opened it. The language was dense, corporate and suffocating. Grave operational misconduct, willful endangerment of production flow, conspiracy to disrupt logistical stability. It was all nonsense. It was Vane's voice, dressed up in a $10,000 suit. "I don't understand," I said, my voice flat. "It's all in my report," Ebax said, his voice dripping with fake sympathy. He shook his head. "I told them, Tess, I told them you were unstable, messing with the thermostats, fiddling with the inventory logs, saying crazy things about our suppliers. You've become a liability. You're unwell." Unwell? Then he was painting me as the crazy one. He was destroying my credibility. Your access keycard has been deactivated, effective immediately, the suit said, checking his watch. You are to remain off premises pending a full and lengthy investigation. Mr. Klein will have your personal effects sent to you. I was locked out. He hadn't just fired me. He had branded me. He'd taken my biggest strength, my precision, my obsession with the truth, and he'd twisted it into a weapon against me. I walked away. I could feel Bax's smile on my back. I got back to the Sable Row warehouse. It was our de facto headquarters now. Dario and Knox were waiting. I dropped the letter on the steel table. Dario read it. His jaw tightened. He's good, he said, the words low and bitter. He cut you off from the source. No more data. And he's discredited you. He's already building the narrative that you're an unreliable, disgruntled employee. He looked at me, and his eyes had that fear in them again, the fear I'd seen in the car. Tess, it's time. Go to the condo. Stay there. Lock the door. Let me and Knox handle this. Handle what? I shot back, the anger finally breaking through the ice. You can't fight this with muscle. Dario, he didn't send thugs. He sent lawyers. He sent men with clipboards and letterhead. He's not attacking me. He's attacking my story. He's making me the crazy clock girl who got fired for seeing things that weren't there. If I hide, I'm just confirming his narrative. If I go dark, they win the story. I was pacing the concrete floor, my mind racing. We have the data from the pen. We have the logs. We have the twin ledger idea. We don't need to fight his story. We need to tell a better one, a louder one. I stopped. I looked at Dario. We host the open kitchen night tonight. Dario stared at me. Here in the spotlight. After this, he'll know exactly where you are. Good, I said, my voice hard. Let him. We invite every small-time chef, every food truck owner, every single person in this city who is getting bled dry by the Lattice Union. We don't just show them Vane's lies. We show them the alternative. 2 nights later, the main bay of the Sable Row warehouse was filled with folding chairs. About 35 people showed up. They were men and women I recognized from the produce docks, chefs from small cafes, owners of food trucks. They all had the same look in their eyes, overworked, underpaid, and one bad inspection away from ruin. Dario and Knox stood in the back, by the main door, just 2 more shadows in a warehouse full of them. My hands were shaking. I stood at the front, next to a big whiteboard and a table. On the table was a $12 digital thermometer, a stack of clean logbooks, and a laptop. Hi, I said. My voice cracked. I cleared my throat. Hi, my name is Tess Rivera. I used to work intake at Wharfline Commissary. I was suspended 2 days ago because I asked too many questions about the math. I picked up the thermometer. This is a $12 thermometer. It's the most important tool in our business, and Marcel Vane and the Lattice Union are terrified of it. I turned to the whiteboard. On it, I'd drawn my twin ledger. This, I said, pointing to the left side, is their math. This is a $5,000 supplemental cooling fee charged to Wharfline during a 3-hour, pre-scheduled power outage. This, I tapped a printed out photo of the label, is a box of ground beef scrap for render only, being delivered to the Velvet Finch as organic tenderloin. And this, I held up a copy of the Lattice Union fine, is a $200 fine for inefficient water usage. It's nonsense. It's theft, dressed up as paperwork. A chef in the front row, a woman with flour in her hair, nodded. They got me for that last week. And this, I said, pointing to the right side of the board, is our math. This is the log from our generator, which kicked on during that same power outage. This is our temperature log, checked every 30 minutes by hand, and this is our promise, a clean, verifiable, honest supply chain. We're calling it the clean line. You don't pay efficiency fees. You just pay for your food that's safe. The room was silent. I had them. And right on cue, the lights flickered. Then they died. The entire warehouse was plunged into absolute pitch-black darkness. There was a collective gasp, the sound of chairs scraping. "Stay calm," I yelled, my heart leaping into my throat. Dario's voice cut through the dark, low and urgent. "Knox, now!" North Dock. Dario's voice came again, closer. He was at my side. I couldn't see him, but I felt him. They cut the transformer for the whole block. A deep thrum shuddered through the floor. A second later, emergency generators kicked in. Bright, battery-powered floodlights, the kind used for construction, snapped on. Knox was standing by the generator, and Dario's men were positioned around the room, holding the lights. The room was bathed in a harsh, bright light. The crowd was spooked. They were on their feet, heading for the door. "Wait!" I shouted, my voice desperate. This is what they do. This is the game. They cut the power. They make you panic. They force you to take the shortcut. They want you to serve the bad food in the dark. We don't have to. I pointed up at the generator, humming steadily. Our cold storage is secure. Our data is safe. This is why we have a clean system, because it doesn't fail when they want it to fail. Crash. The sound of shattering glass exploded from the office above us. A rock, the size of a fist, flew through the high window and landed on the concrete floor, 10 feet from me. People screamed. A tiny piece of glass, a sharp, triangular shard, flew down and hit my arm. A sharp, sudden sting. I looked down, a small cut, just below my elbow. It wasn't deep, but it was bleeding. Dario moved. He wasn't the calm, controlled landlord. He was the man from the pier. He was a blur, running past me, toward the side door where the rock must have come from. And he was out of the warehouse before the last piece of glass had even hit the floor. I stood there, my hand over the cut, adrenaline singing in my veins. A few seconds later, he was back. His face was pale. The fury was there, cold and terrifying. But the second his eyes landed on me, on my hand covering my arm, it vanished. It was replaced by that raw, agonizing fear I'd seen in the car. He ignored the 30 stunned people. He ignored Knox. He walked straight to me. He pulled my hand away from my arm. "You're hit," he said. His voice was a low, rough whisper. "Dario, it's a scratch," I hissed, embarrassed. "I'm fine." "You're bleeding." He grabbed my other arm and pulled me, hard, into the office, out of sight of the crowd. He grabbed the first aid kit from the wall. His hands were shaking. This man, who ran the Castillo syndicate, was shaking from a paper-cut-sized scratch. He ripped open an antiseptic wipe, his movements rough. "Dario," I said, putting my good hand over his. "Hey!" He stopped. He looked at me, his breathing ragged. We were in the small, dark office, the sound of the panicked crowd muffled. He was too close. I could feel his breath on my face. "I should have made you stay at the condo," he whispered. "No," I said, my voice soft. "This is where I'm supposed to be." I reached up, my fingers touching his cheek. The skin was rough with stubble. "I'm okay." He closed his eyes, just for a second, a shudder going through him. He leaned into my touch. It was a moment of pure, grounding vulnerability. Then he pulled back. The mask was on, but his eyes were still raw. "Stay here." "No." I pulled my arm away, grabbed a simple bandage and pressed it on the cut. "I'm finishing this." I walked back out. The crowd was silent, watching me. "They're desperate," I said, my voice ringing with a new, hard confidence. I held up my bandaged arm. "Because the truth, it scares them. They can cut the lights, they can throw rocks, but they can't change the math. So, who wants to see a real logbook?" The next morning, the phone at Sable Row started ringing, and it didn't stop. The chef from the front row. She moved her entire contract. 3 other restaurants, all big clients of Vane's, pulled their accounts, citing logistical concerns. The Velvet Finch posted a sign, "Closed for renovations." We had won. We won the narrative. The victory felt good for about 5 minutes. Then Knox's intel came in. Vane was apoplectic. He had summoned Bax. The message wasn't complicated. "She has a drive. The data from the pier, the pen. Get that drive. I don't care how." My personal phone rang, not the burner. It was Junie. Her voice was a terrified whisper. "Tess, oh my God, are you okay? I heard they said you were—" "Oh, Tess, Bax is here. He says he has your last check." And your personal stuff from your locker. He says you have to come pick it up by 5, or he's throwing it all out." Her voice dropped, so low I could barely hear it. "Tess, don't come. He's been on the phone all day. He sounds crazy. He keeps talking about a drive. Please, Tess, don't go alone." The line clicked dead. I looked at Dario. He'd heard. "It's a trap," he said. "I know." "You're not going. I'll send Knox." "No, it has to be me. He's expecting me. If he sees Knox, or you, he'll run, or he'll do something stupid. This is my fight. It's Bax. I started this with him. I'm ending it." "I'm coming with you." "No," I said, grabbing my jacket. "If he sees you, he panics. Give me 5 minutes. I know how to handle him. He's a bully, not a killer. If I'm not out in 5 minutes, then you can come in. Then you can be the syndicate." He didn't like it. He hated it. But he saw the look in my eyes. He nodded once. I wasn't stupid. I went to the condo first. I took the small, black USB drive, the one Dario had given me at the pier. I took out the insole of my left work boot. I taped the drive flat to the bottom of the shoe. I put the insole back in. Then I took a tiny, credit card thin digital recorder. I slid it into my right shoe, flat against my ankle, under my sock. I walked up to the back door of the Wharfline Commissary at 4:55 p.m. I pressed the record button through the thin canvas of my boot. I pushed the door open. The kitchen was dark, empty. The night crew wasn't in yet. The only light was the weak fluorescent glow from Bax's office. I walked in. He was there. He wasn't smug. He was green. He was sweating, and his eyes were darting around like a cornered rat. "Rivera, good, you came." He was trying to sound in charge. "Where's my check, Bax?" "Right here. Right here." He patted a white envelope on his desk. "And your stuff." A small cardboard box with my extra apron and a pair of worn-out kitchen clogs. "Just one thing." He turned, and he threw the deadbolt on the office door. The click of the lock was the loudest sound I had ever heard. Vane's pissed. He was whispering, his voice cracking. He was advancing on me. You really messed things up. That stunt at Sable Row? He just wants the drive. Tess, the one Castillo gave you. The data. The pen. Just give it to me. And all this, it all goes away. You get your check. You can go." He was close now. I could smell the sour sweat on him. I held my ground. The recorder in my shoe was catching every word. "What drive? Bax, I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't play dumb," he shouted, spittle flying from his lips. "The drive, the data. He'll ruin me. Tess, you don't understand." "Bax," I said, and my voice was perfectly, surprisingly calm. "You're the one who doesn't understand. Vane is done. We won. Those chefs, they're all leaving him. He's finished. You don't need to save him. You need to save yourself." "Save myself." "I don't have a drive," I said, looking him right in the eye. "I just have the truth, and the truth is already out." He stared at me, saw I wasn't scared, and he believed me. He believed I didn't have it, which meant Vane wasn't going to get what he wanted, which meant Bax was the one who was finished. "You," his face, which had been pale with fear, suddenly flushed purple with rage. He was a cornered animal. "You're lying." He lunged. He wasn't aiming for a drive. He was aiming for me. His hand was raised. Slam. The door didn't just open. It exploded inward. The deadbolt, the lock, the wood of the frame, it all splintered, blasted apart. Dario was standing there. He wasn't angry. He wasn't tense. He was past all that. He was just dark, a solid, cold shadow, filling the doorway. His eyes were not on me. They were on Bax. They were on Bax's raised hand. I let out the breath I'd been holding. My 5 minutes, I breathed. Dario's eyes flicked to me, then back to Bax. My math was off. He said, Bax's lunge was pure, unthinking rage. He was a bull. All weight and forward momentum, his hands clawed. Dario didn't meet the lunge. He was fluid. He stepped inside the attack, not away from it. His hand, the right one, shot out, but not as a punch. It was a flat palm, an iron-hard shove to Bax's breastbone. At the same moment, his left hand grabbed Bax's advancing shoulder. It was a perfect, violent pivot. Bax didn't hit me, and he didn't hit Dario. His own momentum, redirected, sent him smashing sideways into the metal filing cabinet. His head hit the steel with a sickening thwack, and he slid to the floor, dazed. It took maybe 1 second. Bzzzt! A loud, mechanical buzz. Not from the fight, from the hallway. Tess, now. It was Junie's voice, high and panicked. I looked at the shattered office door. Dario didn't look at me. His eyes were locked on Bax, who was groaning, pushing himself up. Go, Dario said. His voice was a flat, cold command. I ran. I vaulted over the splintered remains of the door frame. The main kitchen was dark, but the exit door, the one that led to the dry stock hallway, was wide open. Junie was there, her face paper white, holding the door open. Knox, he buzzed the lock. He said, I know, I said, grabbing her arm. We have to go. I pulled her into the hallway. It was a narrow canyon of cardboard boxes, stacked 12 feet high, a perfect maze. He's up, Junie shrieked, looking back. I turned. Bax was on his feet in the office doorway. He wasn't lunging. He was holding a small black rod. He thumbed a switch. It crackled. A bright, vicious blue spark snapped between the 2 metal prongs at the tip. A stun baton. You're not going anywhere, you little, he roared, and he charged, the baton held high. Dario was waiting. He was standing just outside the office, in the main kitchen, a black silhouette against the dim emergency lights. He was completely still. Bax swung the baton in a wide, sloppy arc, aiming for Dario's head. Dario wasn't there. He moved, a simple sidestep, so fast it was almost lazy. The baton, humming with power, hit the steel prep table with a clang and a shower of sparks. Bax's arm was overextended, his balance gone. Dario didn't hesitate. He grabbed Bax's wrist, the one holding the baton. He twisted. I heard Bax scream, a high, thin sound as his bones ground together. The baton clattered to the floor. Dario didn't stop. He spun Bax around, forced the locked arm up high behind his back, and slammed him, face first, onto the greasy floor. Dario was on top of him, one knee planted firmly in the center of Bax's back, his hand still crushing Bax's wrist. The fight was over. Dario wasn't even breathing hard. Knox, he said, speaking to the air, exit. Problem, boss. Knox's voice came, not from an earpiece, but from the dock. He was at the far end of the kitchen, by the main loading bay. The big steel shutter was half open, and 4 men were silhouetted against the streetlights. They were wearing lattice union vests. Bax wasn't alone, Knox said, his voice as calm as if he were ordering coffee. Dario's knee stayed on Bax's back. Bax was blubbering, his face pressed to the tile. 4 of them, Dario said. He looked at the men. They looked at him. A standoff. This wasn't a fight he wanted, not here. Not with me and Junie in a hallway of flammable cardboard. He made a decision. He hauled Bax up by the collar, shoving him toward the 4 men. Bax stumbled, whimpering. Get him out of my sight, Dario said. His voice wasn't loud, but it echoed in the dead kitchen. Bax froze, halfway between Dario and his men. Wait, Dario said. Bax turned, his eyes wide with terror. Dario stepped into the dim light. Give your boss a message, he said. Tell Marcel Vane the rules of engagement just changed. The lattice men grabbed Bax by the arms and practically dragged him out onto the pier. They were gone. Dario turned. He looked at me and Junie, hiding in the stock hall. He walked toward us. His steps measured. He picked up the stun baton from the floor, looked at it, and then tossed it into a vat of cold sanitizer solution. It hissed and died. I didn't realize I was shaking until I was in the parking lot. I was leaning against the cold metal of Knox's boring gray sedan. The adrenaline was draining out of me so fast my knees felt like water. My hands, my legs, my jaw, everything was vibrating. The recorder in my right shoe felt like a brick. The USB in my left felt like a lump of lead. Dario came around the car. Knox was already in the driver's seat, talking low into a phone. Junie was in the back, crying silently. Tess, Dario said. I couldn't answer. I was just trying to breathe. He was in front of me. He put his hand on my shoulder. You're safe. I know, I whispered, but my teeth were chattering. He looked at me, his eyes clinical, assessing. The protector was back. He put 2 fingers against the pulse in my neck. Then he put his palm, his warm, dry palm, flat against my forehead. You're cold, he said. Are you dizzy? Did you hit your head? No, I whispered. Just the adrenaline. His hand was so steady, so solid. It was the only thing in the whole spinning, crazy world that felt real. I don't know why I did it. I couldn't stop. My hand came up, my fingers, still shaking, and I grabbed the sleeve of his jacket. I grabbed it like a lifeline. I took a step, a stumbling, uncontrolled step, and I just leaned. I pressed my forehead against his chest, right against the solid wall of his sternum. I closed my eyes. I heard his breath hitch, just for a second. I wasn't trying to be romantic. I wasn't trying to kiss him. I was just trying to not fall down. I just needed to borrow his strength. I could smell the faint, clean scent of his shirt, mixed with the cold night air and the metallic tang of the fight. He didn't move. He didn't put his arms around me. He didn't push me away. He just let me stand there. He let me hold on. He became my anchor. It was probably only 5 seconds. It felt like an hour. Boss? Knox's voice from the driver's window cut through the moment. I pulled back, my face burning. I didn't let go of his sleeve. What? Dario said, his voice rough. He didn't look at me. He looked at Knox. Bad news, Knox said. That wasn't the only play. The attack on you was Plan A. Plan B just hit my inbox. What is it? A mole inside the Civic Mediation Board. They just got an emergency petition from Vane's lawyers. They're filing a preliminary injunction, a stop work order, on the Sable Row warehouse. My blood went cold. What? Why? Anonymous tips, Knox said, his voice flat. Sudden concerns about code violations, unsafe electrical wiring. They're citing the blackout. They're claiming our generator is a fire hazard. Vane is using the city. He's using the same paper game he used on you. But this time, he's shutting down the whole clean line. When? Dario asked. A judge will sign it at 9 a.m. tomorrow. We'll be padlocked by 10. This was it. We were done. All that work, the presentation, the drivers, all of it. Vane had just beaten us with a pen. I let go of Dario's sleeve. He looked at me. He saw the defeat in my eyes. No, he said. It was a growl. He looked at Knox. He thinks he has until 9 a.m. He thinks he's won. He pulled out his phone. He's wrong. What are you doing? I asked. He's shutting us down with ink, Dario said, his thumb flying across the screen. We're going to burn him down with data. We're not waiting. We're pushing the twin ledgers public. Right now. How? I said. It's the middle of the night, the press. To hell with the press, Dario said. The press are Vane's friends. We're not going to the newspapers. We're going to the market. He was already dialing. Get me every driver on my payroll. Get me every independent courier you know. Get me the chefs from the other night. Tell them emergency meeting. Sable Row, 1 hour. He looked at me. The fire was back. But we're missing the final piece. The knife. What we have is fake accounting, Dario said. I want to prove why it's fake, in a way a truck driver can understand. I need the dockside power rate schedules. And I need the bill of lading manifests from the Port Authority, the ones that show his trucks and the Blue Arrow trucks checking in at the same gate. I think I know how, I said. The Port Authority's billing system. It's online. It's ancient. I used to use it to check my dad's overtime. If I can get in. Knox, Dario commanded. Get Tess a laptop. Get Junie home, in a clean car, and put a man on her building. We meet at Sable Row in 45 minutes. It wasn't a speech. It was a war drum. The warehouse was buzzing. It was 3 a.m. It wasn't just the 35 chefs from before. It was drivers, delivery couriers, warehouse foremen, at least 75 people. All of them looking tired, angry, and scared. They were the blood of the city's food chain. I had the data. The power schedules were a public file. Vane's supplemental cooling fee was a 400% markup over the city's actual emergency rate. The bills of lading were even better. Blue Arrow's trucks had checked into the port at 9:01. The clean Hawthorne trucks 9:03. From the same gate. It was the same operation. The projector hummed. I stood in front of them, my voice shaking, but clear. "He thinks he's shutting us down at 9 a.m., I said, my voice echoing in the huge space. "He thinks he can lock us out, but he's not locking out a building. He's locking out us." I put the twin ledgers on the screen. "This is his math," I said, pointing to Vane's forged invoices. "And this," I clicked, "is the truth. He's not just stealing. He's building his entire empire on the idea that none of you are smart enough to check the math. He's betting that you're too tired, too busy, too scared to call him on it." I looked out at their faces. This isn't just about Vane. It's about the standard. We are the clean line. It's not a place. It's a process. It's us, agreeing to do the job right. I took a breath. I'm not here to name names. I'm not here to get anyone in trouble. We all know the pressure the Lattice Union puts on you. We all know what it's like to be told to just cook the chicken or just redate the box. This is the line. If you've been forced to do things the wrong way, this is your chance. Come back. Come back to the clean standard, starting right now. The warehouse was dead silent. I'd either saved us or I'd just given the last speech on a sinking ship. A man in the back stood up, a big guy in a North Dock logistics jacket. My heart stopped. I thought he was one of them. I did it, he said, his voice rough. I'm a driver for Hawthorne, but they made me pick up a Blue Arrow load. Last week, they paid me $500 cash to swap the labels. I got kids. The room was tense. The man looked like he was about to be sick. And then, the chef from the front row, the woman with the flower, she started to clap. Slowly, then another person, and another. Soon, the entire warehouse was clapping. Not for me, for him, for the driver. He was the first one to cross the line. The tide wasn't turning. It had turned. Dario was in the back, by the generator, his arms crossed. He wasn't looking at the crowd. He was just watching me. He wasn't smiling. It was something deeper than that. It was pride. He wasn't the boss of this room. And he was letting me be. Knox slipped up to him, his phone glowing. "What is it?" Dario murmured. "Velvet Finch," Knox whispered. "They put up the closed for renovations sign, just as we thought. But my man on the inside says they're not renovating. They're waiting. A new shipment is coming in, not from Hawthorne. A new shell company. Vane is already adapting." Dario's face went hard. He nodded. Then, his personal phone vibrated. A different one, not the burner. He looked at the text. It was from a number he didn't recognize, but the man's name was at the bottom. A neutral dock worker. A guy who owed Dario's father a favor from 20 years ago. The text was simple. "Bax is a mess. Vane just met him. He's crazy. Said if Bax doesn't handle the clock girl tonight, he's swimming." The order was clear. Solve the problem permanently. The meeting at Sable Row broke apart, not in fear, but in anger. It was a wave of energy. People were talking, shouting, sharing stories. They weren't a crowd anymore. They were a coalition. The driver who confessed was surrounded, not by accusers, but by other drivers, all clapping him on the back. We had won. Then Dario's personal phone vibrated. I saw him read the text. The faint light of victory in his eyes died, replaced by a cold, hard focus. He walked over to me, pushing through the energized crowd. "That was my man on the docks," he said, his voice a low rumble just for me. Vane didn't just summon Bax. He gave the order. Solve the problem permanently. That means you, tonight. My stomach, which had been full of fire and adrenaline, turned to ice. So what do? We move now. You're not going back to the condo. You're not going anywhere I can't see. He gripped my arm, his fingers firm. "Knox, we're taking the bridge route to the North Shore safe house." We were in his sedan 2 minutes later. The rain had turned biblical. a full-on Port Laurel's gale. It was a solid wall of water, and the wind was so strong it was rocking the heavy car. The hollow bridge loomed in front of us, its black steel frame screaming as the wind tore through it. The sound was like a roaring animal. Halfway across, Dario slowed. 2 black SUVs, parked sideways, blocking the entire bridge. "They're here," he said. His voice was completely calm. He put the car in park. "Stay in the car, Tess. Lock the door when I get out." "Dario, no. Lock the door." He got out. The wind ripped his door open, slamming it back against its hinges. Knox's car, which had been right behind us, pulled up, blocking our rear. Knox got out, 2 of them. The doors of the SUVs opened. 6 men, all in black, all wearing lattice union vests, they fanned out, creating a wall. And then, from the passenger seat of the lead SUV, a man got out. He wasn't a thug. He was immaculate. He wore a beautiful, expensive black raincoat. He opened a heavy black umbrella, which instantly threatened to turn inside out. It was Marcel Vane. I unlocked the door. "Tess," Dario yelled, seeing me. "This is about me." I yelled back over the wind. I stepped out. The rain hit me like a fist, instantly drenching me, plastering my hair to my skull. I pulled the hood of my jacket up, but it was useless. Vane looked at me, and he was standing in the glare of his own headlights. He actually smiled. It was a sad, tired, disappointed smile. "This is it," he said, his voice surprisingly carrying over the storm. "This is the clock girl, the one who broke my entire distribution chain, a soaked-through prep cook." The lattice men closed in, forming a loose semicircle. They were between me and Dario. "Oh, Bax was supposed to handle this." Vane sighed, shaking his head. "He's an idiot. You are just a nuisance. Give me the drive. Child, the one from the pen and the one Castillo gave you, give them to me, and I'll let you go home. You can go back to checking thermometers." I shoved my frozen hands into my jacket pockets. I could feel the plastic-wrapped sheaf of papers in one. I could feel the hard lump of the real drive in my boot. "It's too late, Mr. Vane!" I shouted, my voice clear and hard. "The data is already out. You can't stop it." It was a bluff, but it was a good one. Vane's smile faded. "You don't understand the value of cargo, do you? You don't understand logistics. You're a child, playing with a very, very complex machine." "I understand the value of food that doesn't make people sick," I shot back. "I understand the value of not poisoning a city. You call it cargo. I call it dinner. I call it rent. I call it the truth." Vane's face went from bored to furious. The mask of the clean, reliable CEO was gone. He was the man who ordered hits. He jerked his chin at the man closest to me. "Get her bag!" The man lunged. He was fast. He never touched me. Knox was a shadow. He moved, intercepting the man's arm, twisting it. There was a wet pop. The man screamed. Dario was moving at the same time, not at the goon, but at Vane. He stepped right in front of me, a solid wall between me and the monster. "This ends here, Marcel," Dario said, his voice a low growl. "It already has." "Dario," Vane spat. He was furious. His umbrella long gone, his perfect hair soaked. He was just another wet, angry man on a bridge. "You're still playing in the mud I play on the board." He pulled out his phone. The screen glowed, illuminating his face. "This is a court order signed 1 hour ago from the Civic Mediation Board. Your little, clean line at Sable Row is shut down. The city is padlocking it as we speak. Your community has nowhere to go. You've lost. Your little story is over." He was holding the phone up, the red-stamped injunction visible even in the rain. I started to laugh. They all stared at me. Dario, Vane, the goons. I was laughing. A high, crazy sound in the middle of a hurricane. "You think that's the win?" I yelled, pulling my hand from my pocket. I held up the Ziploc-bagged twin ledgers. The rain hammered on the plastic. "You can lock a building, Vane, but you can't lock up the math. This is your whole game, and it's in the hands of every driver you've ever cheated." "That's nothing," he screamed. "It's your word. No one will believe a fired prep cook over me." "I'm not asking them to," I said, smiling. I looked past him, into the darkness at the far end of the bridge. "I'm just asking them to believe themselves." Flash! A single pair of high beams snapped on, cutting through the rain, then another and another. A low rumble, the sound of a dozen, then 24 engines. Out of the darkness, they came. Food trucks, delivery vans, old pickup trucks, the cars from the warehouse. They hadn't gone home. They hadn't scattered. They had followed us. They rolled onto the bridge, forming a long, tight semicircle, their headlights all pointing at us, pinning Vane and his men in a blinding, inescapable spotlight. Car doors opened. The crowd from the warehouse poured out, the chef with the flour on her apron, the drivers, the couriers. They were soaked, they were cold, and they were furious. Junie pushed through the front. Her face was a mask of terror, but she walked right up and stood next to me. I was there," she said, her voice shaking but ringing out over the wind. "I signed for that shift. Bax told me to redate the chicken. She's right, and I'm right now. We're done lying for you." "He's right," yelled the driver who had confessed. "He paid me $500 in cash to swap labels at the pier right off a Blue Arrow truck." "The lattice fees," another woman shouted. "They put me out of business. They're thieves." The voices rose, a wall of sound, a chorus of testimony, louder than the wind. I saw him, Bax. He was cowering by one of the SUVs. He saw the crowd. He heard the drivers. He saw his entire petty, fragile world collapsing. He turned, scrambled into the passenger seat of the SUV, and the driver squealed in reverse, disappearing back into the storm. Vane was trapped. The crowd was advancing, not to attack, but just to bear witness, to surround him. Dario hadn't moved. He was still standing next to me. He looked at Vane, who was now just a very rich, very wet man, surrounded by the people he thought were invisible. "This isn't a state jury, Marcel," Dario said, his voice calm and clear. "This is your market, this is your supply chain, and you just lost it." As he spoke, Vane's phone, still in his hand, lit up. A call. We could all see the name. Hawthorne Logistics. Cancelled. It rang again. Velvet Finch. Contract void. He was finished. His reliability. The only thing he'd ever truly sold was gone. It had evaporated in the rain. Then, one last car pulled up. It was a boring, brown sedan. 2 men and a woman in sensible raincoats got out. They didn't look like cops. They looked like accountants. "Mr. Marcel Vane," the woman asked, holding up a badge. "We're from the Civic Integrity Tribunal, the real one. We've been receiving a flood of calls for the past 2 hours, from dozens of local vendors. They're all here. It seems we're going to need to see all your shipping manifests, from all your companies, starting with Blue Arrow Partners." This was the end. Vane didn't run. He didn't fight. He just stopped. The power drained out of him. He was just a man. Dario didn't touch him. He didn't have to. He put his hand on my back, a solid, warm pressure. He just stood there, with me, and watched as Marcel Vane was taken down, not by a gun, not by a rival, but by a community, by a logbook, by a prep cook who was tired of the math being wrong. The crowd was alive, people talking, giving statements to the tribunal. Vane was just standing there, broken. I looked down at my hand, still clutching the plastic-wrapped papers. I could feel the hard, rectangular lump of the real USB drive in my boot, the one I never even had to use. The rain was easing, the wind dying down. As I watched, the storm clouds broke. The first watery gray light of dawn spilled over the city, painting the wet steel of the bridge in a color that looked almost like hope. It's been 1 week since the storm on the hollow bridge, a week since the rain stopped and the city held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. What happened was quiet. Marcel Vane wasn't arrested, not in handcuffs, anyway. The Civic Integrity Tribunal, the real one, is drowning in a sea of testimony. They're building a case that will take months. But Vane's power wasn't in his bank account. It was in his reputation for reliability. And in one night, on one bridge, we destroyed it. His network, built on fear and lies, collapsed like a house of cards. The Velvet Finch is boarded up. The Velvet Rope's gone. The Lattice Union office is an empty storefront, and all those chefs and drivers are lining up to file claims for the fees they'd been extorted for. Wharfline Commissary reopened 3 days ago. I walked in, and Bax's old office was empty. The broken door had been replaced. The new manager, a nervous woman from corporate, handed me a new keycard. My new title is Regional Food Safety Coordinator. It's a real job, with a real salary, one that's about double what I was making before. My first act was to calibrate every single thermometer in the building. My second was to throw out 600 pounds of borderline product. Nobody said a word. Bax is just gone. Junie heard a rumor he's working the night shift as a security guard at a car wash out in the suburbs. The Sable Row warehouse received a formal commendation from the tribunal. It's become the gold standard. The clean line is real. I met Dario at the bridge. It was quiet, just the sound of the afternoon traffic below. The sky was a clear, sharp blue. He'd been scarce, busy, tying up the loose ends of Vane's empire. He didn't say hello. He just stood next to me, watching the water. He was wearing the same dark coat, but the tension was gone from his shoulders. He looked younger. He held out his hand. In his palm was a single, new, silver key. "What's this?" I asked. "It's a storage unit, Ma," he said, his voice quiet. "A small one, down by the water, climate-controlled, high security. It's clean." I looked at the key, then at his face. "You're giving me a place to hide." "No," he said. He closed my fingers over the key. His hand was warm. "It's not to keep you, Tess. It's for you to open whenever you want, a place to store what matters, your notebooks, your research." He paused. "Your freedom, a place that's just yours. No one else has a key." I clutched it. "Thank you." Later that night, we were at the Sable Row warehouse. The victory celebration was over. The drivers were gone. It was just us. The rain had started again, but it was different now. A soft, gentle patter on the tin roof. Not the violent storm from the bridge. It was the sound of the world being washed clean. Our coats were hanging on hooks by the door. The big whiteboard with the twin ledgers was still on the wall. We were just existing. In the quiet. The tension that had been a live wire between us for weeks was still there, but it wasn't fear anymore. It was a low, steady hum. I turned to say goodnight. He was standing right there. He'd been watching me. "You did it, clock girl," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "No," I said, shaking my head. "We did." He stepped closer. The space between us shrank, from feet to inches. He reached out and, just like he did in the car, he brushed a stray piece of hair from my cheek, but this time, his hand lingered. "This is," he started, but he didn't seem to have the words. So I gave them to him. I leaned in and kissed him. It wasn't like the first time. It wasn't the desperate, rain-soaked, adrenaline-fueled kiss in the car. This was slow. It was deliberate. It was an agreement. His lips were soft and sure, and they tasted like the clean night air. His hands came up to cup my face, his thumbs brushing my cheekbones. My hands, my scarred, calloused hands, didn't grab his jacket. They found his. I interlaced my fingers with his. His grip was strong, solid, real. He pulled back, just an inch, just enough for our breath to mingle. His forehead rested against mine. His breathing was unsteady. His eyes were dark, and I could see the question in them. The respect. "Tess," he whispered, his voice rough with an emotion he wasn't used to. Are you sure?" I didn't answer with words. I just smiled, a real, quiet, sure smile. I tightened my grip on his hands, and I pulled. He came willingly. I took a step back, pulling him with me, until the backs of my knees hit the long, wooden bench that ran along the wall. We fell onto it. a tangle of arms and legs, a soft, breathless laugh escaping me. He was leaning over me, his hands braced on either side of my head, caging me in. But it wasn't a cage, it was a fortress. The rain pattered on the roof above us, a gentle, steady rhythm. He just looked at me, and all I could feel was the warmth of him, the clean scent of his skin, and the look in his eyes that was all me. My skin was tingling. My breath was catching in my throat. This was the man who had torn down a fake certificate, who had faced down a dock full of thugs, who had given me a key to my own freedom. He lowered his head, and his lips brushed my neck, a soft, warm promise. His embrace was a vow, and in that quiet, clean kitchen, surrounded by the truth we had built together, we let the storm outside wash the old world away. The next morning, I was at the Herring and the Bean. I was there first, a cup of black coffee in my good hand, my bandaged one finally healing underneath. The bell on the door jingled. Dario walked in. He looked different. He wasn't the shadow in the corner, he was just a man, in a dark sweater, his hair slightly damp. He saw me, and the corner of his mouth ticked up in that small, secret smile that I was starting to realize was just for me. He got his espresso and sat in his usual booth. He just sat and watched the city wake up, and he looked peaceful. The bell jingled again. It was Junie. She wasn't pale or scared. She was glowing. Tess, look. She was waving a brightly colored flyer. They're all over Wharfline. They're in every kitchen on the dock. She slapped it on the table. Community food safety, a new standard tonight, 7 p.m. Sable Row Warehouse. Lead instructor Tess Rivera. I looked at the flyer, my name, my class. I glanced over at Dario, and he was watching. He didn't say anything. He just lifted his hand and very slowly tapped his fingers on the wooden table. Tap, 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 tap. It wasn't the impatient rhythm of a killer. It was applause. That night, the warehouse was packed. More people than before. Drivers, chefs, prep cooks, the hands that feed the city. I stood in front of them, my old notebook in my hand. My name is Tess, I said, my voice clear and strong, and I'm a clock girl. I like the math to be right. I didn't talk about Vane. I didn't talk about Bax. I didn't talk about the syndicate. I talked about process, about temperature danger zones, about logging the truth, not because you're afraid of a boss, but because you respect the person who's going to eat the food. I looked up. I saw Dario in the back, his arms crossed, leaning against the generator. He was smiling, a real, full, proud smile. He saw me teaching. He saw me in my light. He caught my eye. He nodded once, and then he slipped out the back door. He didn't need to stay. He wasn't my owner. He wasn't my boss. He was just letting me shine. After the class, as people were laughing and sharing stories, my phone buzzed. It wasn't the burner, it was my real phone, an unknown number. The text was short. West Coast partners are impressed by the clean line model. They want to open a new clean standard warehouse in Los Angeles. Are you ready to take this standard national? The signature made my heart stop. Castillo Logistics Clean Line Division. I looked at the text. I looked at the crowd of people, my people, who were finally learning to trust their food again. I looked at the key in my pocket, the key to my freedom. I typed my reply. Yes, I'm ready, but Port Laurel's is home base. We build from here. I found him later, where it all started, on the docks. The wind was cold, sharp, and it smelled of salt and diesel. He was watching a container ship being unloaded under the bright white lights. I'm tired of being a shadow, Tess, he said as I came up beside him. He didn't have to look. He knew it was me. So don't be, I said, leaning against the railing next to him. Stand in the light with me. The kitchen light is pretty bright. He smiled, that slow, real smile. It is. He reached into his coat. One last thing. He handed me a thin manila envelope, not money, paperwork. I opened it. My blood ran cold. Just for a second, it was the original incorporation file for the Urban Commerce Bureau. The fake one. The one Bax had on his wall. I don't understand, I whispered. It was Vane's, he said quietly. It was his first shell company. From 10 years ago, he didn't just use the fake bureau, Tess, he created it. He built the entire system of lies from the ground up. I looked at the file, at the spiderweb of names and LLCs. He's not really gone, is he? No, Dario said. He wasn't grim. He was just stating a fact. His network is cut, but the roots are deep. The game is still there. I looked at the paperwork. I looked at him. I wasn't scared. He wasn't celebrating. The war wasn't over. The first long, terrible battle was, and we had won. I slipped the file under my arm. I reached out and took his hand, not his sleeve, his hand, his fingers, strong and calloused, closed around mine. Well, I said, looking out at the glittering lights of the port, it's a good thing I keep meticulous notes. He squeezed my hand, and together, we turned away from the shadows and walked back toward the light of the kitchen. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'm so curious. Where in the world are you listening from right now? Let me know in the comments so we can all connect. And if you enjoyed this ride, please subscribe to the channel, Mafia Boss Stories, and like this video. It really helps. And if you want to give this story an extra boost, hit that hype button. It tells the algorithm that you loved it and helps more people find us. Thank you again.